We're back to suits and ties, as you can well see. No, it's not the Stonebwoy track. It's just us on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo at your service. And as always, I do this together with Bernice Lansah. We're glad that at the start of this month, the third day, yes, but the very first day of the week, you've chosen to allow us to come into your homes. From us to you, thank you and God bless you. Of course, we all need some blessings at the start of a new week. But coming up this morning, what can you expect on our chopping board? I'll be serving you the news shortly, but right after that, we'll be joined by the General Secretary for the Convention People's Party. I'm talking about none other than Nanaya Jantwa. You know how she is. Bears her mind. She'll be joining us to dilate on the latest from the newspapers. And then we get into our big stories, two major matters. We'll be talking money and we'll be talking galamsey and security. So first, those three bills have seen the light of day. There was a bit of a tussle with one of them. Apparently, there was some arrangement in Parliament by both ends and some minority MPs walked out. Well, today we'll be talking about the growth and sustainability levy, the excise duty bill, among others. How come they saw the light of day after all the ferocious push from the minorities? And what can we expect as ordinary people, as business people, as enterprises, as these bills are set to become law? We'll be bringing you the scope on that. But on the other end, some of you may have seen that video of some police officers literally begging, kneeling down and begging galamseyers, established galamseyers in the Axim area. What exactly happened? How did we get here? Where do we go from here? The police has issued a statement with 4 of those culprits apprehended. Some of them even took the ammunition of the police involved. But you could tell that something was amiss. We'll be bringing you the scope on that. And of course, the matter, as far as the police officers are concerned, has also been referred to the Police Professional Standards Bureau. We'll get into the nitty-gritty, the fine, bits as far as that story is concerned. Today being a Monday as well, expect your drive safe tip and look out for our latest hotline documentary. All of these on our chopping board this morning. So don't miss a beat. Just stay with us and let me serve you the news up next. Welcome aboard our news belt. And in our very first story, we touch on some security-related matters as residents of Siru, Balawa, and other adjoining communities in the West district fear they will be cut off from the region if the Siru Dam is not breached. The dam broke its banks following torrential rains last September, posing a risk to these residents. They say several appeals to government to come to their aid have not yielded any results. There's more in this report.
One of the few dams in the Upper West region where large chunk of different species of fish could be caught is the Siru Dam. The dam is located between Balawa and Siru communities in the West district. Also closer to them and dotted across are a plethora of dry season farms. The produce cultivated from these farms are mainly vegetables. Notable among them are tomato, pepper, and garden eggs. So, the life and survival of the people in this twin community and other adjoining communities to a very large extent depends on this dam. However, the dam is unable to hold much water now as previous times. On September 22 last year, the bank and spillway of the dam got broken as a result of torrential rains in the area. The main road to the communities lying in between the dam and the farms became inaccessible, and farmers, commuters, and other road users are bearing the brunt.
People have to carry their loads back to the other side, Kangba, through Bulunjin to Pointanga, before they are able to access the regional capital, which is several of kilometers away. unless if they could cross over to the other side, which is about 15 kilometers away from Wa. So as a result of that, farmers are able to lose income because of that. Animals too that used to come to the dam to drink, as a result of this breakage, the dam has overflown its banks and the water level is so low to the extent that if nothing is done about it, it will have a devastating effect on the people.
I was not able to be visiting the farm as I used to do at first, and that actually affected that's the health of my animals, because bringing a veterinary to inject them as I used to do was a very big tax. Sometimes if he even sacrificed to come by, he passed through which is a very long way.
This middle-aged woman has a brush with death as she nearly got drowned in an attempt to cross the high current water.
I was once asked by a young man whether I had the heart to cross the dam. I responded in the affirmative. He held my hand midway into the dam, not knowing that he didn't have the heart rather to cross over the dam. He left my hand, and the water came carrying me away. It was God that rescued me as I got hung on top of a tree with my legs hitting the branches. I cried and praised God, and that really saved me.
The chiefs and people of the area has made passionate appeals to the duty bearers in the region, and all has since fell on deaf ears.
I am very disappointed in the government. We have been on our knees pleading with them, and they paid no heed to us. We have informed our Huawei's DC. Nothing has been heard so far from her. Same as the MP. We also appeal to other individuals. We are yet to hear from them also. We are now using our own resources to fix it.
The residents have even threatened to boycott next year's election should the road fails to be fixed before the time.
During campaign period, we flat here. I want to inform them, if they don't help us to construct the road, they should not come here for their campaigns again. You come.
On to our next story now, and the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies at the Regional Maritime University, Dr. Gabriel Akakpo, has bemoaned the lack of funds for students to undertake quality research to make meaningful contributions to the country. Dr. Akakpo's comments come in the wake of assertions by industry that products from tertiary institutions are not fit for purpose. There is more in this report.
The desire of tertiary students to fit into the job market after their studies is sometimes met with surprises, as these students are often labeled not fit for purpose. This experience over the years is pushing Regional Maritime University to take a different approach in reversing this trend. One of the challenges the university has identified is unavailability of funds for students to conduct quality research towards improving industry. Dean of School of Graduate Studies, Dr. Gabriel S. Akakpo says the university is building relationship with the industry to understand what is expected of students. He says Petroleum Commission has agreed to come on board.
My encounter is that our students have difficulties engaging in quality research because they lack funds. So you see that the topics that they have chosen to work on are very shallow. That itself denies them of in-depth knowledge about the particular industry they are researching into. So the idea is that, okay, why don't we liaise with the industry who actually have the problems? Sometimes we remain in office trying to imagine the problem that they have. We do our research, our training, and they say we are not fit for them. So we decided that, okay, let's get to the industry on the ground. We went to Petroleum Commission to have a tete-a-tete with them to find out what do we do, what do you need, so that we can come back and frame our contents, frame our curricula to meet your needs.
Vice Chancellor of Regional Maritime University, Dr. Jethro W. Brooks Jr. has expressed the need for close collaboration between academia and industry.
To make sure that our curriculum is highly improved so that our end product can receive added value when they get in the market, the industry, to be able to just start working immediately without any problem. So we decided to engage the industries, and that's one of the reasons why you see the Petroleum Commission is represented here tonight. We want to find out what the industry needs. We don't want to continue on that old academic way of just teaching. We want to find out what the needs are from the industry so that we can adjust our curriculum where necessary and if possible to meet the needs of the industry. We want to produce so that when at the end of the day they can be absorbed and not to produce to be seated at home or maybe loitering in the streets.
Meanwhile, Director of Finance at Petroleum Commission, Vincent Yankee, assured the institution of support.
We are the regulator of the upstream industry, and by virtue of where we sit, we can facilitate funding of institutions because at the end of the day, the students that these institutions are churning out are more or less the pipeline of the human resource that the industry needs. And so there is a need to do everything possible to ensure that we bring on board various institutions in the industry to ensure that be it the laboratories, be it the research areas, the commission facilitates capacity, building of the capacities of these institutions to enable the students that pass through the institutions to be industry ready.
For Corporate Affairs Manager Edward Apia Brafo, the oil and gas industry is moving at a high speed in terms of knowledge and skills, and products of Regional Maritime University must be industry ready. Kwame Yanke's reports for Joy News.
And that was our Tema correspondent, Kwame Yanka. On to our next story now. And 105 prospective entrepreneurs will get the opportunity of tapping into the $1 million seed fund being provided by the MasterCard Foundation Health Collaborative. Head of Health Entrepreneurship under the scheme, Professor Wilberforce Owusu-Ansah, says the funds can be accessed by anybody who has viable health-related business ideas.
Speaking at a stakeholder engagement for KNUST Health-affiliated training institutions and MMDs in the northern sector, Professor Owusu-Ansah said the program will also feature a pitching session where stakeholders will be invited to be part of the panel members.
Once the training is over, and we have even factored into the design of the training program where we give people opportunity to be able to pitch those creative ideas. So in this case, we are teaching them how even to pitch, and then we create a platform where they will pitch. And that one is not going to be decided by only the pillar heads and even our PI. We are going to bring in other people, including the likes of some of the key influencers and the people like you, to be on the panel. And we all adjudicate in terms of which idea is more important, more scalable and all that, so that those people will now be given the funding.
The objective of the MasterCard Foundation Health Collaborative is to build and strengthen the capacity of healthcare students and professionals to meet the growing demand for primary healthcare in Ghana. The project will further develop a dynamic, sustainable, long-term network of leading African universities, alumni and government agencies and private sector partners working together to create dignified and fulfilling jobs across health ecosystems in the next 10 years. KNUST is one of the 8 partners of the Higher Education Collaborative in Health, with the aim to contribute to all 3 pillars of health strategy: health employment, health entrepreneurship, and health ecosystems. The Chief Director of the Northern Regional Coordinating Council, Mr. Hassan Isaku, was happy the Health Collaborative will tackle the urgent needs in Ghana's health sector. He therefore urged the participants to rally behind the project.
This collaboration is very important because certainly the health of every nation determines its wealth, and if we do not prioritize health issues, then we do not stand any chance of achieving the progress and development that we all desire for our people and for this country.
On a rather sad note, former Minister of Trade Alan Kyerematen has been commiserating with the family of the deceased Member of Parliament for Kumewu. The late Philip Basua died on Tuesday, March the 28th at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Leadership of the New Patriotic Party also paid a visit to the family to assure them of the party's support. Nanawachi Adam has more in this report.
Family of the late MP for Kumu could not hold back their tears as former Trade Minister Alan Kojo-Kyerematen and leadership of the New Patriotic Party paid their respect. Former Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen says the party and people of Kumu have lost a dedicated servant.
MP Susodia, Sabi, or Minia Kitwa, and was I Madame Fu, and Yazo Aksakosia, a Probaku. Now, Michelle Modern Bar.
The late MP is a brother. He dedicated himself to the party. This is a big blow to the entire country. The General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, lawyer Justin Kudia, indicated that as the party sympathizes with the family of the late MP, leadership will also prepare for the by-elections ahead.
So the 60 days, I believe, started counting from Friday when the Speaker of Parliament officially communicated in the chamber that he has officially written to the Electoral Commission. So as a party, it is what it is. We need to prepare for the by-elections. We have to initially do our internal arrangement to get a candidate to represent the party. And I'm sure we are going to do a good job.
Now, Muslims who choose to fast in the holy month of Ramadan are being urged to pay close attention to their eating habits, as the disruption of their regular diet and eating patterns during this month could cause some discomfort and heightened food sensitivity, specifically when eating certain types of foods high in salt, sugar, or fat. Anas Sabit visited the nutrition department of the Techiman Holy Family Hospital for more education on meals that are harmful during the period of fasting.
During the holy month of Ramadan, healthy adult Muslims abstain from food and water from dawn to sunset. Traditionally, one breaks the fast at sunset with a meal called iftar and then eats again pre-dawn at suhoor. Even though there is evidence to suggest that fasting can have positive effects on your health in terms of weight loss and decrease in blood pressure and cholesterol, the fasting person may have certain health-related issues to deal with, and this includes malnutrition, dehydration, fatigue, and low energy, amongst others. As a result, it is highly recommended that Muslims observing this spiritual exercise need to make health a priority by paying attention to their dietary recommendations even before the start of the month. But how many people take this into consideration, and which meals are not recommended for the fasting person and why? We paid a visit to the nutrition department of the Techiman Holy Family Hospital to throw more light on this. Senor Emmanuel is a public health officer and in charge of the nutrition department.
As we all know, Ramadan is a spiritual exercise. But as we are embarking on this journey, we don't have to be oblivious of our health. So this is an opportunity to enlighten the populace about how to undertake this spiritual exercise and also remain healthy.
Senor Emmanuel hammered on the relevance of the pre-dawn meal and asked that this would help deal with dehydration during the day.
As Muslims, I think period doctrine is important not to skip the dawn meal, as they are not to take anything, whether drink or fruit, during the day. So it's advisable to be taking primarily water, not fizzy drinks, carbonated or sugary drinks. They are not healthy for our health. So water you can take at dawn before you start the journey, and after you break in the evening, because there may be dehydration. You have to replenish whatever fluids you lost in the course of the day.
Emmanuel, however, cautions Muslims to be wary of the intake of acidic foods, particularly during the breaking of the fast, as this has the tendency of affecting one's health when taken on empty stomachs.
Orange, pineapple are all within the acidic fruits. They are not bad in nature, but the timing in which you take it, you don't have to take them on an empty stomach. So you can't break the fast with acidic fruits. Maybe after taking something light, it can be soup, can be wheat, home wheat, food rich in fiber. After that, you can take those foods. They can even help the aids in digestion.
He further emphasized that despite the fact that some processed foods have some benefits, majority of these foods are detrimental to the general health of the consumer, as they contain a high amount of saturated fats, which is not healthy for a fasting person.
Processed foods, if not in the period of fasting, they are things we have to take with caution. Processed foods that are manufactured, packaged, they have hidden components that are injurious to your health. So for every normal human being, you have to take them with caution.
Senior Emmanuel again noted that fruits and vegetables are essential during fasting, as they increase the feeling of fullness and help prevent constipation.
We have to take a variety of fruits. The color depicts the kind of nutrient pertaining in that particular fruit. So taking one fruit or kind of fruit wouldn't give you the nutrients the body requires. So we should take variety of them.
In a nutshell, the fasting person must endeavor to subscribe to eating easily digestible fruits with high water content. Stay away from fatty junk meals, and at least spend some few time having shorter and low intensity workouts that would help maintain one's fitness level and improve his or her health and well-being. Anna Sabit, JoyNews, Tichima.
And that's how we cap off the news. Stay with us as we're joined by the General Secretary of the CPP as we get into the news review. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into the news review, and we're joined by Nanaya Jantua. She is General Secretary of the Convention People's Party. She'll be joining us shortly, but before that, as always, it is only fitting that I let you know this segment is brought to you kind courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. So they are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well across their branches dotted across the country. They are here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, then in Kumasi, Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade, Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Enzima. Reach them on these numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And we're grateful that you've taken the time to join us as we get into those all-important matters. But that very serious matter we're going to be contemplating this morning at the second leg of our big stories. Axim and what happened there. I've got calls from different people in security, people in governance, even members of parliament on that matter. And I find it shocking. I've never seen anything like this, at least at this level before. Police officers kneeling down, engaging, negotiating, begging galamseyers, begging them. They are supposed to enforce the law. Apparently, there had been some sort of operation, whether sanctioned or not. And you could tell from the rhetoric that these galamseyers had some sort of relationship, understanding with the galamseyers. And this particular one, who appears to be the leader of the team in the truck pickup, if you like, with the police officers, accosts them, claiming they had wanted to take him away, maybe to a police station. And that it was only upon the intervention of others, a motorbike that crossed, that they had to stop. And now they haul these police officers out and manhandle them. How did we get here? How exactly did we get to this point? It beats my imagination. It boggles my mind. The police has come out with its own statement. 4 of those gentlemen have been apprehended. Investigations will be pursued as far as the officers are concerned at the Police Professional Standards Bureau. And I'll say it, sometimes you take matters there. I've taken 2 matters there to the Professional Standards Bureau. One, something that happened on the road with reckless, crossing over by a police pickup. Nothing came out of that. Eventually, the officer came begging and all of that. That was the end of the story. Those 2 police officers who, by the way, had lied through their teeth, and I have evidence. One of my directors who was here, who was with me in the vehicle. We went to the Police Professional Standards Bureau. We had to let go of that because it was not going anywhere. It was clear, especially when the begging came in. The second one, I pursued it when there was that shooting at North Kanishi. I'm beginning to wonder. I mean, Dr. Dampare is doing a yeoman's job, but some of these things that keep happening take away from the good things he's doing. And I think, Mr. IGP, Dr. IGP, that you should seriously look at some of these activities. And when these happen, the punitive measures shouldn't be glossed over, shouldn't be overlooked. Because what I saw on tape left me with a lot to be desired. Very little to be desired. And that is my little message this morning to the IGP. But before we get into the Daily Graphic newspaper, Nanaya Jantwa is on board with us. Nanaya, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, my dear. How are you?
I am very well. How about you?
I'm well by the grace of God.
It's interesting. It's just a few days ago that you were here and I saw you, and today you're back on my own show. I usually do this, especially when it's been a long time since we interacted. What is your economic situation like? And quickly, how would you react to, I don't know whether you heard me going on and on about that situation to do with the police officers in Aksim. In about a minute and a half, if you can just combine the two.
Thank you. Good morning to your viewers and good morning to your production team. Good morning to my CPP comrades and good morning to the people of Ghana.
Right.
Certainly, my economic situation is not the best. You know what it is like these days. You go to the market and prices have increased so badly. And to also think that there's a 20% increase on beverages, including bottled water. Everybody takes bottled water.
Right.
And can you imagine what it is like to have 20% on bottled water? These are not very good times. The issue at Axim, that is the policeman who was ambushed by some people, and they said that he has taken their money or duped them. I mean, the policeman used very good skills. I mean, on the spur of the moment, I told myself, why is he not using his gun? But he did very well by trying to persuade them not to hurt him. He incapacitated the opponent. But that is not, for us not to be afraid of the police and to be able to attack the police the way it was done, no matter what it is unacceptable. And the IGP, as you said, should be up and doing to deal with the situation. It needs to be dealt with. This kind of indiscipline of the civilian against the police is not good enough. The police too should be above reproach. I mean, they shouldn't put themselves in a situation whereby they have to be accosted or be molested by civilians. They live in our community. When they remove that uniform, they become civilian. And they have friends, they do interact. So they need to be very careful how they conduct themselves in the communities.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on these matters. Let's now get into the Daily Graphic newspaper and some interesting stories there. BPA Bui Sugar Limited set up 1D1F Sugar Factory. That story is on page 20. Parliament passes 3 revenue bills, and that story on page 16. Free SHS policy must focus on skills development. Professor Suman says so. The banner headline, the main story there, add guarantor system. MPs against sole use of Ghana card for voter registration. Political analysts, smaller parties agree. And then, on the back page of the paper, Razak's brace wins day for Olympics. They beat Brecum Chelsea by 2-1. There are also other results there. Accra Lions losing to King Faisal by 1-0. And Kotoko versus RTU. Of course, that's a late kickoff. And that game played. So we'll get back to the sporting stories. But let's start from the banner headline of the Daily Graphic. Now it says, Parliament has rejected the Electoral Commission's use of the Ghana card as the sole source of identification to register people onto the voters' register. The House unanimously recommended to the EC to include the guarantor system in the public elections, that is the Registration of Voters Regulation 2023, before it could present it for consideration. Legislators were of the view that unless and until the challenges confronting the issuance of the Ghana card were dealt with, using the card as the only medium of voter registration would negatively impact the electoral roll and thereby deny some otherwise qualified persons from voting or registering to vote. Quote, the EC should tarry slowly until every eligible voter is afforded the opportunity of registering and procuring the Ghana card before the legislation of such a compulsion, the MPs agreed last Friday. For you, Nanaya, last week I saw in the Daily Graphic, I believe, some talk about some of the smaller political parties, or the political parties, so to speak, saying that, well, they didn't have too much of an issue with that particular matter. There was a stance of the MPP, the CPP, I beg your pardon. I have forgotten exactly what it was, whether you were for or against or somewhere in the middle. Tell me, what do you make of this CI and how do you react to what the parliamentarians have voted for?
Thank you very much. The CPP has 3 stands on this one. The first one is that the Ghana card, we are not against the usage of the Ghana card, and the Ghana card is legislated to be used for registration of voters. And we are saying that there should be a synchronization between the platform of the EC and the NIA, so that the EC would know exactly who is registered. We also said that the EC and the NIA should collaborate in a manner that as they are registering people or those who are eligible to be registered, the NIA should be with them, so that if anybody comes to the center and they do not have the Ghana card, they can be registered. The synchronization that we're talking about, it should be to the effect that the EC will see who has been registered under the NIA so that they can register them. How is this going to work? We said at our central committee, we agree that there should be a code for each person, even if the card is not printed. There should be a code for each person who does what, who has registered. We also said that the guarantor system cannot be cancelled. The CPP is saying that it should even be legislated so that it is a form of it's a force. It is mandatory for the EC to, it shouldn't be let loose. The parliament should legislate it. It should be in some form of law. They will decide which of the laws to amend. either to amend the NIA law, to amend the Political Parties Act, whichever law that has to be amended, or amend the CI to include the guarantor system. Because as you said, it came to the fore during our meeting that those in the hinterlands, there are people who are in villages who do not have access to the district office to even go and do a Ghana card. So the point is that we agree that the guarantor system should be maintained. Because even with the Ghana card, it came up that if you are doing a Ghana card, you have to go through, one of the options is to go through a guarantor system.
Right.
So
on that system, the guarantor system being retained, I think in the previous EI we're talking about 5 people or so, and then if I recall correctly, if memory serves, Dr. Afari-Gyan, can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm saying that it has to be, legislated again. We even wish it's not in the CI, but in some law, an ally.
So the point I'm making is that as far as the guarantor system is concerned, I think you could do up to about 5 people or so, and now it required 5 people. In the latest one, there was that proposal that I think by Dr. Afari-Gyan that it should be a maximum of 3. What do you make of that? That was the question I wanted to just
interject. The number is okay, but as long as it's maintained, the modalities can be worked out. Because they should use the same system, because they are saying that the system is porous. But the EC should also recognize that as they have brought this issue up, most people are against it. So what you have to do is to tighten the controls so that it is not abused. Because if the one for the Ghana card is not abused, the same system can be used. So that at the end of the day, those who do not have the Ghana card will be able to also register. The issue is also that the people who we are talking about are the unregistered 18-year-olds. You know, when you are 16, you can get a Ghana card. I believe the NIA should do some work for us to know how many of the young ones have the Ghana card and those who do not have. Because this registration is not for everybody. The 15 million or so on the roll who voted in 2020, their names are there in the register. It will not change. We are looking at those who are unable to vote to register, the young ones who are coming on board. But some young ones, they have it already because in school, they use it to do their Momo transactions from their parents. So the NIA should also do some work. As we want the guarantor system to be maintained, they should also do some work to tell us that the new people, the young ones, how many of them are registered? Then the EC2 should let us know the others who are not registered. What is the number? Not concentrating only on the young ones, because at that time, let's assume people had traveled, they were out of the country. They couldn't register. Some people were far away, like what we were talking about. The EC should mop up all these data so that we know exactly what we are dealing with. But as it stands, we have 3 issues to deal with. They should synchronize, the EC and the NIA should synchronize their platforms. They should make available officers. They should collaborate to bring officers of the NIA to their centers when they are registering. Also, they should not abolish the Ghana card, but rather even legislate it further.
Well, let's get into some other stories. We'll start from page 16. Parliament passes 3 revenue bills, and Parliament has approved 3 major tax bills targeted at bolstering the sustainable generation of domestic revenue for the country. The bills are the excise duty and excise stamp, or excise tax stamp. That is the Amendment Bill 2022, the Income Tax Amendment number 2 Bill in 2022, and the Growth and Sustainability Levy Bill 2022. Now, the trio, which was passed under certificates of urgency, is projected to complement the government's efforts to raise more than 4 billion Ghana cedis annually, more like 3.8 billion, but it could approach around 4 billion. What do you make, Nanaya, of the approval of these 3 bills, especially when the minority had shown some opposition? But per what we gather, at a point, some members of the minority walked out. It even appears that at a point, the majority side did not have all 137 in Parliament, yet the votes were passing and the figure 137 was being bandied around. In fact, per the Daily Graphic, during the considerations of the bills, the minority leader, Dr. Cassiel Ato-Forson, justified why his caucus was opposed to the passage of the 3 tax bills, saying they would impose more burden on the ordinary Ghanaian businesses and financial institutions. Yet, with the number of 136 on the side of the minority, they could do nothing. And all of these bills passed. Some have suggested that there were some discussions with the leadership of Parliament on allowing these bills to pass. But for you, from where you sit, should we have approved them at this time when the ordinary Ghanaian is suffering this much? And what do you make of the positioning of the NDC? Another failure on their part in Parliament?
The point is that if you approve this bill at this time, it's a bit insensitive because times are hard. And as I was saying before, if you put 20% on beverages, including bottled water, and I believe that packaged water will also include sachet water, which is drunk by majority of the people. When this happens, you are even bringing up a health issue because then people cannot afford it, Ghanaians cannot afford it, and they will resort to taking water from sources which are not wholesome. And I mean, it appears as if that is the easier way out because there's no way you will not drink water. And when we don't have our taps flowing all the time, certainly you will depend on these sources of water or bottled water, the dispenser and the small bottles and the sachet water. That one is not good enough. I don't see how government should put 20%. Because for instance, today the dispenser is 23 cedis. So if you put 20% on it, you are talking about 1/5 of the amount. You are talking about 5 to 6 cedis. And if you put that amount, you are going into almost 30 cedis to 27 cedis. That is a lot. How many people can buy that? So I think that it is a bit insensitive. It should not have been passed at all. You should find other ways of generating revenue, opening the tax net. Nobody is saying you should not tax Ghanaians, but you should open the tax net. This is the same government that said that they are going to use production, not taxation. And now they are taxing us to our throats. And it is a very unfortunate situation. Income tax, already those at the higher brackets are paying about 25%. Those at the lower brackets are paying about 15%. So you add 20% across board. It means that if you are the higher bracket, 45% of your salary is going into taxes. Then it means you have even eroded the daily minimum wage that was given. Because at the very low end, they don't pay any taxes. That's about 446 Ghana cedis, whoever is at the very low end. But going forward, you pay more. So even the 14 cedis of a daily minimum wage has been eroded. And how can that be? That you are burdening the people who pay taxes instead of widening the tax net. The tax net should be widened so that there are other people who don't pay taxes at all. Some of these food vendors, they don't pay taxes. We should look at these areas where taxes are not paid. Yes, they said it's going to rake in 3.8 billion Ghana cedis a year. It will be like the e-levy. Because, for instance, as for the income tax, people cannot run away from it. But as for the water, Ghanaians can decide not to drink bottled water and sachet water. Then you are going to bring a health issue. You are going to bring cholera. Because if they cannot afford, they go elsewhere to find. I think this government should be a bit sensitive to the needs and plight of Ghanaians. Yes, I also heard there's a conditionality for us to get to the IMF. If we have mismanaged the economy like this, and we are where we are, that we cannot even go to IMF, how then can you burden Ghanaians in this manner? I mean, it is an unfortunate situation. After Parliament, what happens there, we do not know. They have their own rules and regulations that would let somebody who wasn't around to be part of the process and be 137, 136. And I believe that the NDC in Parliament, they should do better than what they are doing now. There should be some form of resistance. Because they represent the constituency, even the MPP parliamentary, they represent constituencies. At the end of the day, they'll go to their people. The constituencies who are being burdened are the same people who voted for them. So I want a day to happen where the MPP and the NDC will all say that we stand for Ghana. And this is for Ghanaians, so we need to do it right. So if they all resisted it, there's nothing wrong with it. We should not be too partisan. We should look at the principle behind it. So, I mean, if For instance, the MPP would say, today, for this one, we are not going with it. Because it is very, very burdensome. Times are really, really hard. Medical bills, food bills, the cost of living is very, very
Tell me
high.
about it. Now, one thing you may not have mentioned as we get ready to move on, those who are on bank facilities, trust me, it's becoming stifling. People
Those
keep coming. Bank facilities, bank
the
loans.
interest rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, as the monetary policy rate keeps getting tweaked. Recently, when the 150 basis points were added on to make it 29.5% or so, people had their hearts in their mouths because, look, I know of people whose salaries now, from last year till now, and the add-ons, whose salaries are not up to what they require every month to service their debt. Can you imagine that? And I'm speaking based on fact, my interactions with people and banks. The banks. I was at a bank on Friday. And that is what they told me. There are even people now, what the rate is, their salary, which they used to take out from, does not suffice. So it literally means a person like that will now have to top up, find money from some papa.
Where are you going to find the money?
No, but that's what I'm saying. The banks will also, need their money, unless you have some arrangement with them. So you will now have to do papa to get some money to top up on your salary, so the banks can get their money. And then what will you eat? What will you use for your utilities? What will you use for medication?
I'm saying that, where are you going to? Because then people will start engaging in all kinds of corrupt practices. Because if they are unable to, to survive, they are unable to suffice, then at the end of the day, they will find ways, loopholes in their workplaces to be stealing money, which is wrong.
Well, let's make tracks. Speaker declares Kumau seat vacant. That story is on 18. Calls for by-election. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagming, has declared the seat of the new Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for Kumau, Philip Basua, vacant. Of course, we know of that sad incident. May his soul rest in perfect peace. 2 MPs allege diversion of funds for Afram Plains Road, but Roads Ministry debunks the assertion. I'm talking about Betty Nanefia Crosby Mensah, MP for Afram Plains North, and the MP for Afram Plains South, Joseph Apiabuating. They are lamenting this situation. They have accused the government of allegedly diverting $98 million meant for the construction of the Adosu Echi Amanfrom Donkokrom roads. A statement signed by the two alleged that currently the government was making arrangements to divert the approved funds for the construction of bypasses on the Accra-Kumasi highway from Osino to Konongo. And so, robbing Peter to pay Paul? I don't know. Let's get into other stories. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, gangsters attack police, seize magazine, mobile phones, 4 grabbed. I started off on that story. We've already touched on it. I'll prioritize party needs, that's according to Dr. Kwabena Dufour, and 3 newly passed tax bills to rake in 4 billion Ghana cedis annually. These are stories we've already taken a look at. I just want to get to this story here. Okra water, and yes, it is okra, not okro. For the first time, I'm seeing at least some paper capturing the right thing. Okra water helps lessen diabetes symptoms. It's a piece by Professor Raphael Nyakote Obu. It's an interesting article that I would like you to check out if you have the time. That will be it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the back page, sports, as I've already mentioned. The Daily Guide newspaper. NPP decides on presidential race as Stephen Ntim, the chairman of the party, pictured there. I'll bring you some details on that. Health Service revokes Okobeng's award. And Atsim Cops caught in Galamsey drama. I'll just ask though, like I was hinting at, I have personally taken some aggrieved citizens, one when I was aggrieved, another one when someone else was aggrieved, to the Police Professional Standards Bureau, what used to be PIPS. They are in the Nima police station. Their office is there. Sometimes you take matters there, and I have very good friends in the police, but you take matters there and it's almost as though, oh, Jaimananka, or this, or we'll go through the processes. And you don't get to see the end of the tunnel. What happens in the end? For me, that is problematic. What would you, Nanaya, like to see as far as these police officers are concerned? Because it is clear from what we see that there was some relationship between them and these Galamseyers who now had turned on them. What would you like to see in this matter?
I've heard there's an investigation going on, and I believe the police should come up. It doesn't matter who is involved. If their people are guilty, they should be able, they have their own rules and regulations. We have laws in Ghana that should be able to punish them. Nobody is above the law. So I believe that the proper investigation should be done. There should be no interference, especially where the issue of Galamsey has come up. Galamsey has destroyed our water body so badly that, I mean, today we don't even have the water to process for us to drink. The Ghana Water Company needs so much chemical to be able to make the water that comes into our homes wholesome. So the right investigation should be done, and it should be done without, devoid of any form of favoritism or friendship. And that whoever is guilty should be brought to book. They should not put their mind to only the civilians. They should also look at the police people as well. As I said before, when a policeman removes his uniform and he's in the community, he becomes a civilian. And if you are not careful as a policeman, you are not disciplined, you might get involved with some of the issues that go around you. So I think that the proper investigation should be done, and it should be done swiftly so that we get an answer to the issues. And they should also put in place measures so that it will not happen again. It's not very good for the image of the police for something like this to happen. And who knows, if the policeman, somebody can kill somebody, somebody can use a gun and all that in this kind of a situation.
Right.
So I think that the PIPs should be up and doing. And if the PIPs, I mean, they lack some form of wherewithal or authority, I mean, to work, I think that the IGP should give it to them.
Right. To wrap with the next few stories in the Daily Guide and the Finder newspaper. Ifyatenge heads for Parliament after resignation. You know, this information came out on April the 1st, and it left some scratching their heads, wondering whether this wasn't someone's April Fool's Day prank. But it turned out not to be. And the Superintendent of Police, Ifyatenge, has resigned from the Ghana Police Service, having taken an appointment in Parliament to head the newly formed Directorate of Media Relations, which has been carved out of the Public Affairs Department. She had served with the Ghana Police Service.
What's the name of the department?
So the Directorate of Media Relations, that is what she's going to head. It has been carved out of the Public Affairs Department. And that's what she's going to head, that directorate. And so her 18-year stint with the Ghana Police Service comes to an end. NLA staff busted over fraud, and 3 persons, including staff of the National Lottery Authority, are in the grips of the National Security for unlawful liquidation of lottery wins. According to the information available to the Daily Guide, officials from the National Signals Bureau stormed the Fortune House headquarters of the NLA to take over its service and interrogate staff of the IT department to uncover what it believed to be illegal transactions on the NLA IT systems. It is alleged that following investigations by the NSB into some unusual liquidation of wins, 2 suspects were picked up at various locations, leading to the arrest of an IT staff of the authority. So right now, the lotteries to Kululu come inside. The final story I'll leave you with, IMF deal, revenue bills passed. Last hurdle is bilateral Eurobond creditors agreement. Any quick thoughts on these stories as we go?
I am interested in Ifyatenge going to Parliament. As a professional, when these departments are carved out and they are separate, it brings a lot of conflict. And I believe that Parliament has clear work for them, job descriptions, because media relations normally sits with the Office of the Public Relations or Public Affairs. And now you have carved out a directorate just for media relations. Then, I mean, it has to be very clear. There should be fine lines. There shouldn't be a thin line. There should be clear, bold, fine lines so that there is no conflict. Because if you don't put bold, clear, fine lines, then you notice that they go into each other's area and there is a conflict, which sometimes is not very pleasant. Congratulations to Madame Ifyatenge for her new position, and I know that she will do a very good job. I mean, NLA, it involves money. If you have the situation in which we are now, people will be forced to do all manner of things to get to survive once they find the loophole. And I believe that all these loopholes should be blocked. We should not allow it to happen. Then we bring in the investigative body. Whoever heads an institution should know that they are working with human beings, and some of these loopholes should be blocked,
right,
so that at the end of the day, nobody will have the opportunity to steal or engage in corrupt practices.
Right. Nanaya, we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning, and we look forward to the next opportunity of engaging you, Madam. Nanaya Jantua, of course, the General Secretary of the Convention People's Party. I just have to sneak in this bit. Sam Jonah, Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, is cautioning against draconian measures and policies in the country's quest to revive the economy. He says our policies must not go to exacerbate the existing struggles our citizens are facing. That's what he's been saying lately, and that's in the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. Right before I sign off for sports, though, it was interesting. Yesterday at Mass in the evening, I met this little girl and her mother. She came to me, hugged me, and all of that. I found out that she watches this show every morning together with her grandma before she leaves for school. So to little Ikuya, I know you're watching me this morning, you together with Grandma Teresa. I am very glad that you take the time every morning to watch us before you go to school. God bless you and have a wonderful day. Before we go as well, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic is offering you free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Locate them in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronoma Abuehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takra de Anaji Estate Tama Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzima. The numbers to call 0244 867 068 or 0274 234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. In the English Premiership yesterday, Manchester United losing to the Magpies by 2-0. And of course, Chelsea also losing out there. Well, we'll be bringing you details of all of that in sports. Also, a happy birthday to Mr. Isaac Yaote Akon Jr., aka Godfather of Pool of TUC and Dansuman. Keep fit. God richly bless you on your birthday. On that note, let's settle for sports up next.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Ablai. Over the weekend, there were many sporting stories that happened, from boxing to Formula One, as well as the never-ending stories when it comes to the Ghana Premier League. It appears hooliganism is never going to end when it comes to the country's domestic competition. The latest club to suffer an attack was Tamale City when they lost 1-0 to Ediana Stars. It was a 90 plus 10 minute penalty that was awarded to the league leaders, and that handed Tamale City a 1-0 loss. But in the end, their timbers was destroyed, and then some players also suffering some degrees of injuries. Let's go on phone right now and speak to the man who supervised their qualification to the Ghana Premier League, Hamza Mohammed. Hamza, we appreciate your time with us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. How are the players doing?
Alhamdulillah, they are getting better. We just arrived in Tamale about 30 minutes ago. We're given a referral letter to those who were injured in hospital. We are still at the hospital right now. The one who was injured badly, he's been admitted, but Allah willing, those who had minor injuries are sent home. But Alhamdulillah, we are back home, just on our way to organize ourselves and then go back and see the one who was injured badly. Apart from that, we arrived home safely.
How many players got injured?
5 players.
5 players?
Yeah, the minor were 4, but the serious one, the eyes, is only 1 person.
Okay, so talk to us. What happened?
I'm sorry, I mean, it's just a normal league match that we play or prepare to play. I mean, we didn't know of organization threatening to against
league leader,
team that is on top of the league. It's a normal football. I mean, people come or go and enjoy themselves. It started from the technical meeting. I mean, our CEO and welfare manager were held hostage after the technical meeting for almost 1 hour, 20 minutes. That made us were late in reporting because we were waiting for them at to come for all of us to play again. We didn't have the opportunity to warm up. Actually, after holding our hostage, it was agreed that we can be us of things. We didn't warm up. We started the game all right. First half, second half the same thing. We added 10 minutes, 1 referee pass from commercial to yes. After the time that you could not score. So it was obvious that we wanted to aid them. We didn't say anything. A dubious in our face I've never seen in my life. I wish maybe your reporters will get the footage from the FA match. For everyone to see what the official did. We didn't say anything. They scored. After adding 10 minutes, you could not. We added another 7 minutes, 17 minutes. I've never seen it before. We immediately after we restarted the game. We started pressing things that are on the pitch. We have to go to the center pressing. It took the facilities, for almost 35 minutes before they can escort us to our bus. Immediately we got into the bus, we started pressing to attack. That's where it hit one of my players' eye and then those minor injuries from the boys. The bus, the windscreen, everything is destroyed. Everything. That's why we are arriving. From Sunyani to Kamali, it will take more than 8 hours. But we could not. We have to wait, arrange the money because if we didn't prepare any miscellaneous money for that, we never anticipated that this will happen. Nothing happened.
Okay.
We managed the bus to arrive this morning. That was exactly what happened.
Wow, interesting. So do you have an idea? The people who attacked your bus?
It was the supporters. Even inside the stadium, when we were in the bus, just close to the Doma Park, just close to where they park the bus. It's very close to the dressing room. We knew the hostility after the technical meeting, so we decided not to send all our things to the dressing room. When we went to research in the first half, we decided to bring everything to the bus. So immediately when they escorted us after the match, we moved straight to the bus. On our way, we can stop feeling so. We have to fill our bus and we can stop the change ourselves and then we break the park and then proceed. That's exactly what we did. Immediately there, we start in the car, and the scene we started to certain things and start destroying. That's where the whole thing started. We managed with the 2 security men that were there to go out and we chased it. During those, it was destroyed there, just close to the park or stadium before we went out of Doma. We went straight to the Central Police Station.
Okay.
Reported the case because some police report went to the hospital to get some first aid for those injured. And then that's like just to manage our bus, a skeleton bus, but there was no way to. It was really from Sunyani to Techima. We suffered.
So have you reported the matter to the police and the Ghana Football Association?
We reported the matter to the police.
Okay.
And they said they are taking up with it. But this is the second time that is happening from the Brown Happen. It happened not less than a year today against Bapo Academy. I think to address. Up to date, I'm telling you, nothing has happened. Nothing. From the FA, from whoever. And from the team. No apology, nothing. So that gave this people audacity to do what the Northeast or a language that they did. Nothing happened until today.
Okay, so what do you want the GFA to do?
No, we are writing our report. We are reporting it today, but we will not wait for them to let us die, for anyone to come and just pay and give us a bag of rice or two or whatever. We say once the rice die, we will advise ourselves.
Okay. And when you say advise yourself, what does it mean?
Oh, that one, when you get them, everyone will go. After all, it's only Commander we are playing the league. Tamale City, whether we progress or not, we will advise ourselves. Send a signal, a large one to hooligan zones, cowards who have been doing that. We will advise ourselves. We will allow ourselves to go through this thing again. No, we will advise ourselves.
As in also attack Adriana when they come to Tamale?
Oh, when the time comes, everyone will know. But what we are saying now,
Hamza, this is a game. This is a game that unites people, and your team has been attacked. Does not necessarily mean that you should also attack the opponent when the person comes to your home ground. This is football. Football is supposed to unite us, not divide us. Sure,
you are 100% right. But the same football, less than a year ago, that's supposed to unite us, and we went through similar thing. Until today, nothing has happened. Our bad is still at Kumasi Magazine. No one has said anything to us. They asked us to destroy whatever, give them the buyers. They give us a penny.
So do you feel Tamale City is being targeted by clubs in the Bono region? Do you feel that?
Yes, that's how we feel. And that's why we are also going to advise ourselves.
Okay.
We are targeted because from the technical meeting, that was where it started. And when they came here, nothing happened to them. Nothing. All the things from the Bono happened. Nothing. You can ask them. I wish any of them online.
No, in fact, we have the videos on the screen. In fact, we also have the pictures of when you reported the matter to the police, because we've seen some of the players at the police station there.
If you go to the relegation, I will go to the two, there will be ethnic camp matches. They will also come here. If possible, but they will come here twice or thrice.
Hamza, this is a conversation we would have to continue. I appreciate your time with us this morning. And I wish the injured players a speedy recovery. From the off-field issues, let's come on the pitch right now and talk about some of the actions that also happened. Great Olympics, they won 2-1 against Brekum Chelsea, and Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they defeated Real Tamale United 4-0.
Nadomako Olache pass on. Forward movement once again by Accra Great Olympics. This is Abdul Razak. Last-ditched effort and was clipped there. And it's the strong man, Henry Ansu, who goes into the...
Yeah, we'll look at it again. Yeah, it's a good call from Bisbao.
Oko Gripman could probably be a target. The cross is on and is in there. First goal recorded by the Wonder Club.
Christopher Nete with a delivery, super balling, nobody there marking. Abdul Razak, and he jumps and knocks the ball past goalkeeper Ben Setre. Super goal.
Corner kick to advantage to Accra Great Olympics. There's Nakai Nete, and it's a second goal. Straight from the training ground.
He outjumps everybody and not home. The second goal for Olympics.
Gregory Obeng-Setre has been beaten twice today by the same man, Yusuf Abdul Razak. He's 5 minutes of add-on time is what remains. Chelsea trying to come through the middle. And then the long ball to the far side. Kufa brings it back. Chance for Chelsea. They pull one back. Lovely pass by Ewa. Controlled nicely by Kufuor. Pulled it back. And then the connection was there.
Mukwala. Lamte. The Silva is onside. Yalfer comes in. He fouls the Brazilian. Foul for Asante Kotoko. Lai has reached this pocket. It's a red card.
So the second choice goalkeeper will come in to replace Lion whistles. Would it be a Japan? It is a Japan. What a beautiful goal. Wonderful strike from a Japan. Second goal in 14 appearances for Kotoko. What goals coming from the set piece in fantastic fashion. Beautiful. But here comes Nicholas Osebonsu, who finds Lamte. Zeze. It's a good ball to find Osebonsu of Kotoko with a chance. They are appealing for a handball, and referee has whistled and pointed to the spot. It's a penalty. So look at Nicholas Osebonsu. He showed great confidence by, surging forward from that pass. Goal scoring prowess still on. It is Mukwala, and he scores. Kotoko 2, RT 0. Stevie Desi Mukwala makes it 2-0 for Asante Kotoko. Keeper went the wrong way. Joined his days with Inter Allies some 3 seasons ago. He scored a screamer against Hatsavok from his left foot. Here's Mukwala. Beautiful goal. Mukwala makes it 3. Stevie Desi Mukwala. Clinical finish from the batsman. Uganda is on fire this evening. Of Mukwala's quality. He knew exactly what he was about the moment the goalkeeper stepped off his line. Called from the near post, Mukwala. Toko have an outstanding game from week 21 to clear against Kim Faisal on Wednesday. Morrison, here it's in Fega, it can be 4, and D'Souza scores his debut goal for Asante Kotoko. The Brazilian finally on the score sheet. He put the icing on the cake. The new poster boy of Asante Kotoko appears. D'Souza, the Brazilian, has scored. Maybe you'll be the next Brazilian the Porcupines will fall in love with after Fabio Gama left.
Welcome back on the AM show. After sports, well, we get into our big stories. On the very first one, we're going to be contemplating those 3 bills put before Parliament, which have now been passed, and they are going to be implemented. They are, deemed to rake in future some 4 billion Ghana cedis for government to sort of bolster our economic sustainability. But what will this mean for the ordinary Ghanaian, for that person who is on a bank facility, for that person doing business, for enterprises, for businesses, for companies? What will this mean? We get into the salient details even as we contemplate that $3 billion IMF deal that we're hoping to secure. Our guest this morning, Dr. Michael Ayamga. He's a development economist at the University for Development Studies. We also have Dr. Rashid Draman, Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Both of them join us for this conversation. We also have Dr. Kwame Asah-Sante. He's a political scientist at the University of Ghana and the Director of the Center for European Studies. Gentlemen, a very, very good morning to you.
And good morning, fellow panelists.
Okay, so I see Dr. Draman, I see Dr. Asah-Sante, and I see as well Dr. Ayamga. I guess it's Doctor this morning, everyone. Good to have you on board. Dr. Kwame Asante, I'll start with you. I think sometime last week we spoke about these 3 bills and what your expectations were. Looking at how it panned out in Parliament, especially from how vocal the minority had been, maybe we'll not get into the minority yet, but what do you make of the passage of these 3 bills into law? What do you make of it?
I think it's a good beginning for our journey to the IMF. All right. We are going to rake in the necessary revenue that, according to the experts, will help us to be able to get the facility from IMF and also build a solid economy for ourselves. Good show, but the issue is that are we going to be able to manage the resources so well that will be derived from this revenue? We have seen it time and again that our leaders, they are quick to come out with taxes that the money generated from it, we find it difficult to account for them. And we as citizens are always, not in a position to demand accountability. So over the years, governments have had a field day where they levy taxes on us, they raking the money. As to the specifics with how they use the money, we have not been able to track, and that is where we find ourselves. My other bit is also that if you look at how government want to meet all the specifics directed by the IMF, all right, they want to get those basics right in order to have the facility. Then I ask myself, that energy that you derive from the system to, pursue this program, couldn't you have used it in your own economy, build the necessary capacity that you don't go to the IMF, all right? Because, yes, now, today, you hear government in China trying to go and talk about debt negotiations. You see government making call on international actors to go and speak on behalf of people that Ghana government owes. You see effort talking to, labor and all those groups in the name of debt rescheduling and the rest of them. Why do we want to inflict that pain to ourselves when we could, organize resources, manage them prudently, and then develop something we call our own without necessarily going to our so-called mother, IMF, who is there all the time for us to go. And when we go there, we leave her home in tears that there are conditions that we are not happy with. I will leave this one for now and then allow my colleagues also to come in. But this is what I think about as my, initial statement towards the whole discussion. I think that we can do better.
We can do better. For you, Dr. Draman, looking at all the talk and everything that has been said, and now these 3 bills passing through Parliament, what do you make of it? What was your initial reaction when you heard that they had become law, so to speak?
Well, I've been saying that in a hung parliament, no one party is strong enough and no one party is weak enough. You have to choose your battles very carefully. It's a game of numbers, and here we go again just by a very slim. People say the bills were passed by a majority. I think we need to revise the discussion about what majority really means, because just 1% difference really, I don't think we can call it majority. But having said that, at the end of the day, it's a game of numbers, and the minority put up their best show in this particular instance as compared to at least the previous one the Friday before, and they lost it. That's what we have chosen for ourselves as a country. We want this very significant matters of state to be decided by a simple majority. Some of us have been saying that when it comes to very important matters like this, perhaps we have to go back and take a second look at our constitution and standing orders. I have been calling for some kind of 2/3 majority to deal with some of these issues. You know, when the hands of parties are forced, they will sit down and negotiate. I mean, there are some who disagree with this view that that can frustrate further the government of the day and so on and so forth. But I mean, we can't have a parliament that is, you know, committing generations upon generations to very huge debts, and that is done by just a very simple majority. Even in instances when people have to be wheeled on ambulances and so on. I mean, really, we need to take a second look about, at how our parliament operates. You know, coming back to the taxes, I mean, I am not an economist, but, you know, first of all, I have to commend Parliament because over the years, we've been saying that when it comes to the budget process and accountability and the oversight role of Parliament, most of the time, parliaments get busy trying to check how government spends money. They hardly contribute to how government generates money. I would like to see more of Parliament's role in how government generates money, even though not in this kind of way, in a way where already our country is overburdened with taxes. When you go into a shop and buy goods today, or you go into a restaurant, I mean, the number of taxes that you see on your bill, I believe, these straight taxes that have been passed are only going to increase the cost of doing business. So if on the one hand, we are trying to find an IMF agreement, on the other hand, these taxes are going to come and kill our businesses. I don't know whether it will not be very soon again before we start running back to the IMF or to some other donors for support.
Right.
So, I mean, really, I think our country is not in a good place.
Our country is not in a good place. That's an interesting way to wrap up. Our country is not in a good place. I'll come to you, Dr. Ayamga. What do you make of happenings in Parliament on the back of these three bills that have been passed? And when you read what the Daily Graphic says this morning, it says, and that is the rhetoric that we've heard from the finance ministry, that this was vital towards securing an IMF deal. Other economists I've spoken to have said, no, we could have circumvented the process. We could have gone about this in a different way. So the question I'll put to you after you're giving your initial reaction to what happened in Parliament, was this vital? Was it crucial? Could we have done without these three?
Thank you, Ben. Just like Dr. Rashid mentioned, I'm also of the view that things of this nature ought to be passed by a bipartisan consensus rather than the slim majority of one member of parliament, because it is something that has implications for the country going forward. And if it has to go down to the razor-thin majority that we have in parliament, I think that we ought to be looking at our structures and our standing orders within parliament. But that is a long shot. It's going to take a whole lot of processes before we arrive there. On the merits of the vote itself, I think that it is more a symbolic gesture rather than a real effect. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because the taxes itself is going to have implications on the economy going forward. And just like we did with the e-levy, we are not going to realize the revenues that we projected. So my view here is that, yes, we should have sought other mechanisms to prove to the IMF that we can achieve debt sustainability, because the economy runs on investor confidence and it runs on consumer confidence. And what you are looking at is options that are going to lead to the collapse of businesses, that are going to kill the local manufacturing sector, and in fact also transfer some cost to the consumer. That is also going to shrink consumer demand. So either way you look at it, there's going to be a reduction in the business activity in the country, and as a result, we're going to have a situation where the projected revenues are not going to be realized. That is the reality of the background here. But as to the IMF, going to prove to them that we have a document, we have achieved legislation that could rake in taxes, yes. But in reality, I don't see that happening. It is the wrong move at the wrong time. It is the worst time to be increasing taxes for corporate Ghana and for small businesses in the country. If you want to put it, we have just opened the door for a dumping of inferior goods into the country because competitiveness of our businesses is going to be impacted by the taxes that they are going to be paying. And I think that much as the finance minister is buoyant about this and thinks that it is a very vital step in the process of securing the IMF deal, the reality on the ground shows that we are going to struggle to meet the numbers and the projections that we have made because businesses are going to suffer, businesses are going to collapse, and the level of economic activity is not going to be able to generate what we expect as a country. So going forward, I think that there's more than we currently are experiencing. We need to look at this thing from a broader perspective rather than just getting parliamentary approval for the introduction of new taxes.
So some interesting, very interesting points you've made. I want to take you back to them. You're saying that it's the worst time to hike corporate taxes or taxes en masse, especially when we're considering that the e-levy has also gone up. We have EVAT and all of that. Then you say we've opened the floodgates for the dumping of foreign goods here. I would like you to expand on that. How exactly? Because when I look, for example, at the excise duty bill, it's going to impose a 20% tax on e-smoking, cigarettes, so e-smoking devices, cigarettes, sweetened beverages, among others. And it's expected to rake in some 400 million Ghana cedis annually. So how exactly do you mean? And then again, we're not going to get the revenue as projected. You made mention of the e-levy, among a few things, but why specifically do you feel will not meet our revenue targets, just as with the e-levy? So those two quick questions, Dr. Ayamga.
Yes, you just need to look at the environment. We are currently dealing with interest rates in excess of 40%. We are currently dealing with the inflation at about 54%, let's say 53 or so. We are currently also experiencing some hikes in utilities, especially for industry. So anything that increases cost of production increases the prices at the end of the day. And we are in a globalized economy. We are part of a globalized system. And once our costs increase, our industries become less competitive. And if they are less competitive, industries or companies have to choose between producing locally or importing cheap alternatives from other places. And I think that the indications are that we are going to see more of the latter than the former. We are going to increasingly see businesses gravitating towards the low end of China goods, and then also to our neighboring borders where they could buy cheap commodities and come and sell. So we are making Ghana a buying and selling country instead of a producing and a manufacturing and employment generating country. So that is the issue I'm dealing with here. And once the level of economic activity decreases, you expect that the taxes that government is going to rake in is also going to decrease. So at the end of the day, we won't meet these targets because first, consumer confidence is going to dampen because of what? The increased prices. That is going to reduce disposable income. And once we do not have those incomes stimulating consumers to demand more, the demand is going to constrict, and we are going to have a situation where we are not able to generate the taxes because first businesses are going to either collapse, fold up, or scale down. And that is the angle from which I'm looking at it. I want to agree to a certain degree with Dr. Asasare, who was saying that we should look at better management of our finances, because one of the things we ought to take into consideration is the fact that we could have chosen to grow our way out of this problem or borrow out of it. Now, the government has chosen the path of borrowing. And if you look at the problem we are confronted with here, we are talking about almost $50 billion debt here, about 40 billion of which has been accumulated in the last 5 years. If your calculator is as good as mine, we are talking about a government that has been borrowing an average of about $7 or $8 billion a year. We are going to impose these constraints on our economy just to go for a $3 billion loan. And you have to ask yourself, if you could not do anything with $8 billion a year, what can you do with $1 billion a year in the IMF program? So we are overrating the impact of the IMF program, and what we are destroying in order to achieve it is unimaginable. And I don't think that we can build our way back from this with just the IMF intervention. That is why I want to agree that we should have stopped other alternatives. Yes, they may be difficult, but they won't disadvantage our manufacturing and our production sector, and will enable us to grow more sustainably. As it stands now, I think that we're going to get IMF approval, but we cannot use that meaningfully to bring back the economy to a sound footing. That is because the hole in the economy is so huge, and the impact of these policies are going to be so crippling that it doesn't matter what we do, we cannot generate the necessary growth to grow our way out of the current challenges we are confronted with.
You see, you've got me thinking. I'll be moving to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante shortly, but Dr. Ayamga, let me stay with you. You're making some points that I find very interesting because I see a paradox here. Are we killing our economy in order to rescue or resuscitate the economy? Do you get what I mean? It's almost as though in our bid to rescue the economy, we had to kill it first. And that is a problem. And how does that match up with, you remember under COVID when Mr. President said, we do not know how to bring dead people back to life, but we know how to bring our economy back to life. With these measures, do they tally with the rhetoric we heard in the past? Just briefly on that.
No, they are definitely at variance with the rhetoric and the posturing of government. It's like selling the car to repair the car key. At the end of the day, you get the car key, you have no car. That is what we are doing now. We are destroying the very fabric of this economy. And this is a government that agrees that the private sector is the engine of growth. So if you kill the private sector just to secure an IMF deal, what are you going to use to generate the growth to bring back the economy into a sound footing? I think that is what we ought to be concerned with, rather than meeting the paper and the benchmarks that the IMF has set for us to prove that we can be sustainable in terms of our debt. We are actually destroying the very economy that we want to save, buying the medicine. By the time we come, the economy will be unsustainable and we cannot recover it. That is my fear here, and that is just the step that this government has taken.
Important submissions, very, very interesting submissions you've made so far. Let me go over to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante as well. And I'd like to find out from you the political optics of this. Do you feel the administration, the ruling party, is taking stock of what this means? The political optics. I'm talking of political convenience versus the general social inconvenience that this is going to bring to bear. Political convenience versus the general social inconvenience that this is going to bring to bear. And this is what I mean. Listen to Sir Sam Jonah, Dr. Sir Sam Essen Jonah, Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast. And recently he spoke. He has cautioned against draconian measures and policies in the country's quest to revive the economy. Quoting him, and after that I'll come to you. He says, it is crucial that we take decisions with empathy and keen understanding of the impact of our actions on the lives of our citizens. Our policies must not go to exacerbate the existing struggles our citizens are facing. This is what he said at the 55th congregation of the UCC this past Saturday. How do you put it together? And are we getting it right on the political level, Dr. Asah-Asante? Did you get that question, Doc?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Right. Certainly, the government has taken lines of least resistance. All right. And now here we are. How do you want to fix economy? By beginning to destroy it first. At the end of the day, as Dr. Ayamga has said, you come back to nothing. All right. It's been consistent simply because government has failed to demonstrate that it has what it takes to manage the economy. That is one thing. Government has also failed to involve stakeholders, people who have the expertise, knowledge to come together and see how they can fix this problem. Government has ignored them from the word go. So now that government is so desperate, it's taken all measures, including the very stakeholders that government rejected, is now calling on them to come together when, they failed already, all right? And all these things impact seriously on the psyche of the electorate, of the citizen. And that, do I have a government that I can trust? Do I have a government that takes into consideration my interests and needs? And these are hard questions that the government must find answers to if you really want to do business with the ordinary man in the street. Because all these taxes have what? A consequence on the livelihoods of people. Have you factored that? That yes, is it your interest just to get the needed resources to meet a condition set out by IMF, or you want to balance it so as to take into consideration the interests of the ordinary man? Mathematics have not been worked well, because if it had been worked very well, the government would have heeded to the advice by Guta and all the business industry. It seems to me that, yes, they are between the hard rock and then the deep blue sea. So anything that comes your way, you grab it and then you move on. That is not governance. That is anything apart from governance. Governance is simply put, how you make resources, both material and human, to make life better for human beings to survive. So at the end of the day, you take a decision that to meet a certain condition, and then back to the recipient of that whole program, you don't bring their concerns to bear on whatever policy you have taken. I'm afraid is going to haunt the government big time. Because take it or leave it, when conditions become so difficult, it translates into actions. And these actions find expression in elections. Because the only way that, let me put it this way, one of the means by which voters can correct a government or can make inputs into the affairs of their own country is when they begin to dialogue with government. Government will also listen to them with rapt attention so that their concerns will be brought to board, to light on the discussions that affect their very survival. But when government decide that, yes, I have to go this way, and I'm not going to listen that much to you, I want to make this condition so as to keep myself afloat the surface of water, then it becomes a problem. So during election, obviously, you realize that the voter will decide to take a decision either for you or against you. But looking at what is coming out of the whole process is going to make life unbearable for the ordinary man. And I can assure you, without fear of contradiction, that the person will also demonstrate that when it comes to election, he will vote you out.
Even before coming to elections, I've spoken to some elderly statespeople in this country who have said that we're not on the right footing as a country. I'll come right back to you on some of the points you just made. But since you mentioned Guta, among others, let's bring in the traders, the businessmen and women who will feel the brunt of this. Joining the conversation, we have Mark Bedu-Abuaje, who is CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Mark, welcome onto the conversation.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and listeners as well.
The last time we interacted, you had to complain and you took the time to speak to us briefly. We're grateful that each time we call, you get to us. But now that these bills have been passed, what do you make of it? I was just talking about political convenience versus the general social inconvenience.
Sure.
What do you think this means, especially for the business community? Again, earlier to Dr. Ayamga, I spoke to him about whether we were trying to stifle the businesses in order to resuscitate the economy. What is your thinking on these matters?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that our cause and our concerns have all been ignored, and these bills have been passed. We have said that these bills, tax bills, are counterproductive, they are anti-business, and they are obnoxious in their nature. They are nuisance taxes. They are not going to add anything to developing the private sector.
Government says it will add $4 billion to the state's kitty. That will help us also secure an IMF deal.
And that is what we are waiting to see. If you look at, for instance, the group and the sustainability bill or levy, they are going to tax profit before tax. Now, they can only tax you when you made a profit. Looking at the current condition, looking at the high cost of production, high cost of doing business, how do they expect the businesses to make profit and then they will tax? Businesses are not making profit. Business is already suffering. And we can't tax ourselves out of what we are going through. What we need to do is to ensure that we empower and strengthen the private sector so they can grow, hire people, make a lot of revenue, and then we can tax. We are killing them right at best, and it's not going to be in the interest of the country. Now, look, we have been talking about changing the structure of the economy. We have been talking about reducing imports. We will not achieve this. I wonder whether we are serious. How can you industrialize with all these taxes? How? How do you expect businesses to expand with all these taxes? We're going to continue to import. And it's about high time that we stop playing politics about the things affecting businesses. It's about high time we know the impact of these taxes on businesses and stop taxing them out of businesses. It won't work. Businesses are going to collapse. Already, they are not competitive. Already, the cost of doing business is high. Comparing it to what is happening in other countries. And you come in with taxes every day. How do you expect businesses to survive and expand and employ people? I'm telling you that in the end, maybe in the next year, next 2 years, the effect all of us will see how these taxes are going to impact on business, how they'll be able to make the profit, the revenue that they are talking about.
Right. So if I may just, if I may, so what you're basically saying, and of course we're looking at the increment in the policy rate, for example. Some have said, when I interacted with, I think, Samson Asaki Awingobit of the Importers and Exporters Association, he said, looking at all of these increments, now the interest on loans could hit anywhere between 40 to 45%, because already we are looking at around 35 plus percent. So tell me what that would mean for your businesses. And again, what you say is corroborated by Dr. Ayamga, who says we likely will not, just as with the e-levy, get the projected revenue from these taxes. But why do you think we will not get there? Why specifically? Apart from the bit about maybe businesses not getting enough revenue or producing enough so that we'll get that. Why do you think we'll not get there?
No, one, we have spent almost 4 months out of the year. The second thing is that the incidence of this tax is on businesses, and the incidence of this tax is on consumers of the product of these businesses. Now, all the taxes that they have, the bills they have passed, they are the businesses who are supposed to pay the taxes. As I said earlier, you can only tax me when I make profit. Apart from that of the mining companies that they are taxing production, all the other taxes are on profit. If I don't make profit, how do you tax me? You made mention of the policy rate going to 29.5, which will translate into an increase in cost of lending. This feeds into the cost of production or doing business that we have in the country. So if you take your revenue and deduct all this, then what is left is what you are calling the profit. You don't have it because you are making losses. What are they going to tax? Secondly, the people who are buying the product, you have VAT on them. Their purchasing power has been reduced drastically that they cannot buy the product for you to get the revenue that you want from VAT and other things. So putting all these things together, the people who are taxing, they are saying they are suffering. Then what you want to tax is not available. So how are you going to get the revenue? Secondly, taxes, as the tax rate increases, and I keep on saying that people will find a way to avoid the payment of the taxes, and that is not criminal. Tax avoidance will increase, and the revenue that they are expecting, they won't get. In the end, they will end up collapsing businesses. Now, businesses that will not be able to survive will either downsize or they will close down. So one, you are also not getting the revenue. Two, those that will not be able to survive here will relocate to other countries. And we have seen some of them relocating, some of them closing down and going to the neighboring countries because the business environment is conducive. You are losing taxes on those people that you want to get revenue from. Thirdly, businesses will be forced to push this cost into consumers, and the consumers are not able to buy the product. How do you get your revenue? So putting together is a worse situation that we've seen that they should have listened to us. Countries are using taxes as an incentive to develop the private sector, to develop the businesses, to expand so that they get their revenue. We are using taxes to kill the businesses, and the effect, as I said, will be there for all of us to see. They are not getting the revenue, and businesses relocate, and businesses will die. Let us look at how we can develop this private sector to the extent that they can create the revenue to tax. Now, you want to grow. Who are giving you the growth? It's the private sector. It is the engine of growth. And the engine is supposed to give you the growth for you to tax. You are using the tax at the point of production to kill the engine so that they are not making revenue. My brother, it's not a good thing for Ghana. And I think that they should have rather look at using the tax compliance, tax efficiency to increase the tax revenue rather than imposing additional tax and increasing tax rates in this country.
All right. Hold for me, Mark. I'll come back to you. Dr. Asante, you were making a point. I want you to conclude on that before I go back to Dr. Rashid Draman with another crucial point. But if you look at what has happened in France, the protests that have taken place. In fact, King Charles's visit couldn't come off because of these protests. You said that people would get disgruntled, and the only way of going about it would be to go to the ballot on the day and deliver a verdict. But what do you think could be the consequences of these actions by government? Because it's literally saying, willy-nilly, like it or not, this is what we're going to do. What could be the real political, social consequences of these actions? Briefly, so I move to Dr. Rashid Draman as well.
Obviously, there are a lot of, political consequences. One is that you are creating a very difficult situation for people to survive. And some of these things, if you don't take care, will express themselves in demonstration, calling for high salaries, and making sure that people also use all other means, illegal included, to make sure that they survive, all right? Because survival is critical. Also, you create all manner of problems for the focus and direction of this country. You ask yourself, which direction is this government heading towards? Is it to make sure that you provide the needs of the people, or just run this short period of 2 years and then go? The other consequence is that you create a difficulty within your own party that who is going to be the flag bearer when this our president steps down, 2025. All right, that difficulty is there because what record are you going to stand on as the next flag bearer for the party to campaign during elections? It's going to be difficult because there is very little to show. If we continue on this route, it's going to create that problem. Another problem is also that you are now going to affect the survival of people. And by this, anything that you say, you tell people, they are not going to trust that. So there's going to be a credibility crisis that people are not sure that they have a government which is honest, which is faithful to them. And for that matter, why would they want to, give the government their all in terms of their input and all that? All these things put together, you are going to undermine the effective running of the state, all right? These taxes, as one of people have said, that people are going to find means of avoiding taxes, which the lawyers will tell you is not illegal, all right? And what we come back to, it undermines the capacity, the extractive capacity of the state, that the state's ability to generate revenue and use it to run its affair. And that is going to create a big problem. So there are a lot, apart from even the elections, which research has shown that the economy is so critical when a voter is deciding who to give his vote to. They decide based on the economy. That's the first consideration. So if they realize that the economy does not support his survival, obviously, nobody will want to listen to that party. They will look for an alternative.
Right. Thank you so much for just expanding on that. Let me bring in Dr. Rashid Draman. You've been a bit quiet for a while because I've not brought you in on those specific matters. But I was reserving this for you. First off, in terms of the positioning of the minority NDC in Parliament, they posed stiff opposition to this, but maybe not stiff enough. At some point, we were curious about whether the MPP, the majority so-called, had 137 members of Parliament there after the voice vote. Has the minority attained yet another ignominious feat of a failure to fully back the will of the people? And secondly, I've been listening to Professor Bafo Adjumandua in recent times, the CEO of the John Kufuor Foundation, talking about our winner-take-all system in politics and how some of such rivalry just makes some parties oppose everything from the ruling administration. Where would you place the minority in this tangle?
Well, before I get there, perhaps let me just react to maybe a few issues that have been raised, particularly the political and social consequences of what we are going through. Dr. Asa Asante made mention of the fact that voters would express maybe their views when we get to the polls, and perhaps maybe express their anger against what we are seeing. But for me, the danger is maybe we might not even get to the polls, because what is happening, I don't know whether our leaders are not thinking about this. These have very serious national security implications, because, when these things begin happening, you have to be careful. When people begin getting onto the streets and so on, there could be very serious consequences in terms of maybe running our country. Particularly, we find ourselves in a region that is already very, very volatile in terms of security. So the last thing you want is to put your people in a situation where they are prone to some of these things. Then the second point is, I'm not too sure whether these things have been carefully thought of. And perhaps maybe the reason might be because we already ran out of options. Because, the IMF, we understand, was the last resort. And you go to the IMF when you run out of options. But right now, what we are doing as a country is, it looks like we are in a position, in a posture where, we say anything goes. But as our elders say, when you are in a hole, the last thing that you want to do is to continue to dig, because then it gets you into very, very serious problems. So that is where I think we find ourselves at the moment. Now, before I get to your question again, let me also say that, reflecting on this and reflecting on happenings in Parliament, I think Benjamin, it's about time that we had some very serious conversations because people continue to raise a question. Yes, the minority tried its best, it failed, and so on and so forth. In some countries today, in a place like Zambia, in a place like Kenya, I think in Parliament, they've gotten enough of this, and they have come up with committees that look at debt ceiling issues or debt management issues, so that these things are managed very carefully, discussed dispassionately, so that we don't continue to sink our country into more debt in thinking that this can get us out of our economic woes. So I think that this is one of the things that I would say our parliament should consider very carefully. A few days ago, I was listening to some analysts, and they said that, look, the tax exemptions that our country gives out alone, those tax exemptions are more than what we are seeking from the IMF. I don't know whether our leaders are not thinking about this and asking themselves maybe the very difficult questions. And these tax exemptions usually are tax exemptions that are given to very big multinationals. And I don't think there's any country that has grown.
And interestingly, if I may add, some of these multinationals that really, if you look at their power globally, economic power, may not even need these tax exemptions and the waivers,
Indeed.
but they are the very ones we give them to.
And there's no country that has grown. If you go to these Asian tigers, if you read their economic history and so on, they grew out of growing small businesses. They grew out of domestic, indigenous kind of solutions. And so, what we are doing here is ignoring the indigenous solutions and trying to, pursue solutions that I think at the end of the day are not going to lead us anywhere. Let me now come to your issue about the winner takes all. And I think that has been the bane of our democracy. And look, I think the message Ghanaians wanted to send with the 2020 elections was, perhaps produce a divided government. We came very close to it. If we had a divided government, one party controlling parliament, another party controlling the executive, I am sure that, the calls that we have been making, that they have to sit down and try to find a way to make this marriage work. That call would have been heeded to by now. But albeit, I think at the end of the day, Ghana missed it by a few seats. And now more than ever before, Benjamin, the stakes are very, very high. The stakes are very, very high. And that's why we are seeing this whole approach of, it's either our way or, there is no way at all.
The highway.
Because we were hoping at the beginning of this parliament that, because of the tight numbers, at least the two parties will be forced at all stages to sit down and discuss and negotiate. But you go back to our constitution, you go back to the standing orders, most of these things are decided by simple majority. And that was the point that I was making earlier. If you have even the slimmest of majorities in parliament, and these issues are discussed, are decided by just maybe one single vote, then really the minority can put up all the fight that it can put up. At the end of the day, if the numbers are not in their favor, then really I think there is nothing that can be done. So back to my original point, that I think we need to begin some serious conversation. If we can't deal with our constitution, because I know the constitutional review process has stalled, over many years. I think the standing orders are within the control of Parliament, provided some of these issues are not tied to the constitution, because that's another limitation. When you try to tinker with the standing orders, you realize that there are some provisions in there that are tied to the Constitution, unless you go and touch the Constitution, you can't touch those provisions. And that's the kind of conundrum that we find ourselves in as a country. And that makes it very, very difficult unless you have an overwhelming majority in Parliament. And then, I mean, that again brings back the whole issue of, I mean, it only heightens the winner takes all. But if we get to a point, maybe we wake up one day, Benjamin, and we are given a divided government, or we are given a representation that is such that, you know, there is no one party that has, I mean, the clear numbers, like what is happening this morning in the Scandinavia, in Finland.
Right.
I mean, they just had their elections, and each of the parties got about 20% of the vote. So they have to sit down and negotiate. I mean, there's no one party that can form a government. And I think that perhaps maybe those are the kind of situations that we need to find ourselves in as a country before our political leaders begin to see sense in terms of the management of most of these issues that we are discussing.
Right. Just to cap off, before I conclude with Dr. Ayamga, what will be your final comments in some 30 seconds? Just straight to the point, Dr. Rashid Rahman.
Well, I think my final comment is that, you know, again, the hung parliament that we've had for the past 2.5 years has been very good for this country. But I repeat that in hung parliament, there is no one party that has, I mean, too much power or too less power. So parties have to decide and have to be strategic in terms of the matters that they can tackle, the matters that they can handle, and so on. The minority has put in the best fight, I mean, this time around, and we have to commend them. And then, again, I think the fight about the CI on the voter identification with the national ID, I think that that's also another thing that we have to commend Parliament as a whole, but I think the minority side in particular.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rashid Rahman, for joining the conversation. We also have Dr. Ayamga. You'll be the final one. You'll have the last bite of the cherry. What would be your concluding remarks, sir?
Yes, my concluding remarks will have to do with the implications of these taxes going forward on our economy and also on governance. I think that what we are witnessing is the government failing largely on the governance case and relying on an electioneering and a campaign strategy to stay in power. And I think that as the economy worsens, the capacity to ride on the election machinery of the party to win elections also dwindles. So if I were in the ruling party now, I would definitely be concerned with the fact that every message that we can take to elections is being eroded by the policies of this government. And we ought to know that you can either grow your economy by trading, selling, getting remittances, and attracting foreign direct investments. What we are doing with these taxes is actually curtailing and also reducing foreign direct investment into this country. We are making other destinations more attractive than Ghana, and they will rather choose to set up there, produce, and ship to Ghana. So don't be surprised that enterprises and corporations that would come to Ghana would prefer to go to Togo or go to the Ivory Coast or set up in Burkina Faso and Nigeria, produce and then send to Ghana. That is what the taxes are going to do. So we ought to be worried that we are increasingly, as a government, failing on the government scorecard and then relying on elections machinery, the networks, and also alliances within the state institutions of elections to stay in power. That is going to be increasingly difficult to do come 2024, because when the masses are hungry and angry, they will only demonstrate it in the election. And the election is going to be the marking scheme of all these things. So yes, the government can celebrate for being able to pass these legislations in Parliament. But when it comes to the day of reckoning, it may not be able to pass this to the electorate. And that is what it ought to be worried about, rather than this simple and small victories that it's winning through legislation.
Simple, small victories being won through legislation, but the bigger victory may be lost come 2024. Thank you, Dr. Ayamga, for sharing your thoughts. Dr. Asa Asante, I hear you're back on the line. Hello, Doc. Doc, can you hear me? Asa Asante.
Yes.
Right. We lost you for a while, so I was going to wrap without you. Do you have any concluding thoughts?
Yes. Yes. All that I can say, that government must be very careful. You can apply all manner of schemes, but if you don't take care, you can win power. But the stark reality will dawn on you that you cannot govern if the economy is not fixed and fixed properly. So it requires prudence. It requires a serious fight against corruption, and then reducing waste within the system. If government fails to do this, I'm afraid the dream of breaking the 8 will be a mirage.
Dr. Asa Asante, grateful that you took the time to join us. I look forward to Wednesday when we'll have you on the news review. Those have been our guests, but since we brought in Mark Bedu Abwaje of the CEO actually of the Chamber of Commerce, how about we hear from Guta as well? Joseph Paddy speaks for the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Mr. Paddy, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, and let me say a good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners this morning.
All right. I don't know whether you follow the conversation, but you're going to have the final bite on this. We spoke to Mark Bedu Abwaje, and he said that, look, this is not going to help businesses in the country. We spoke about the interest rates based on the monetary policy rate. We spoke about the different taxes, and now these three that have been given new life or breath, if you like. How do you react to these three bills that have now become law?
Yeah, there's nothing new to say than to add on to what Abwaje has already said, and that's the situation on the ground now. The purpose of my first statement is we are moving from taxation to production. Has that purpose been defeated by this particular bills that they brought and passed it on? Already, we've been complaining our cost of doing business in the country is extremely high. We are losing business to our neighboring countries. Guta, we did a fact finding. We went to the port. Gapoha, that used to clear about 150 containers a day. Now they can clear barely about 6 containers a day. And you know, majority of government...
Wait. Hold for me, Mr. Paddy. Go back over those figures. You say Gapoha used to clear, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority used to clear how much? How many? And now
about over 100 to 150 a day. Now they cannot even clear 6. We had a meeting with them just last Friday. Yes, and they were asking us that they have seen a decline in importation or clearing of cargoes from the port, and then we should come out and have a roundtable discussion and find a solution to it. And we told them they know what is going on because our members have stopped importing as a result of the duty rate that cumulatively you pay about almost 52% cumulative. So if you import about $10,000 worth of a product, we are paying over $5,000 as a duty. And what business or which kind of business can you go into and even maximize profit or even break even? Coupled with what my brother just said about the policy rate that has been increased from 29.5%. So now we are going to the commercial bank to borrow. The lending rate is going to be about 35 to 40%. Which business can go into that direction? And that when it happens that way, compliance level becomes extremely low. That's what we're seeing. So if people are defaulted from paying their loans, it's as a result of somebody. If your component of your interest rate goes up as high as 35 to 40%, no business can survive under this dispensation. So the question we ask ourselves is, this policy, this program that they are bringing on board, these taxes they are bringing on board, the few people who are already in the tax net are the same people who are going to have this burden. So we're saying that we've been complaining and saying that we should expand the tax net. What are we doing about that? Rather than imposing more taxes. Once upon a time, they say all these taxes are nuisance taxes. And now, reintroduction of these taxes, we've seen increment in those taxes. And this is challenging to the business community. And most of our members are folding up. I have a friend who said, I'm not going to import again. Let me rather keep my money in the bank. And just imagine how many people depend on this guy for product to sell, for distribution. So the timing is bad. Government, in fact, Parliament has failed us. We thought they were working for us, rather they were working for themselves. Because if the time, look, the money we are looking from the IMF, my brother, during the COVID-19 time, we got that money. So everybody's saying, what is 4 billion going to do to Ghanaians at this point in time? We need more than that. If that's the 4 billion we're looking for, and we want to internally generate it, there's a way we can do it. Those leakages, let's look at those leakages from the system and then close those leakages. We can realize and get it rather than introducing new taxes and new bills. And we think we have been disappointed by Parliament, who are working for us, and we advise ourselves as such. And very soon, as soon as possible, Guta is going to have a crunch meeting, and we'll come back with our position. But our position is that we don't welcome these new taxes that has come on board.
Well, Mr. Paddy, we're grateful that you took the time at least to share these thoughts with us as we capped off this conversation. And do let us know what happens with that release when it is ready. Joseph Paddy is PRO for Guta. He speaks for Guta. We're also joined by Dr. Rashid Draman, Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Michael Ayangba, Development Economist at the UDS. We had Dr. Kwame Asasante, political scientist, director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, together with Mark Bedu Abwaje, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. And now, of course, we had Mr. Paddy. So if you didn't know, now these bills are here. They are going to be with us. But how exactly are we all going to cope? That's the big question. I'm going to be taking a breather, and you know what I'm going to be sipping on? Awake purified water, which is treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you, refreshes me better. And they have the perfect sizes for everybody. Those kids are going to school, you want to get the 300 ml for them. If it's the others, you might get the 550 or the 500 ml bottles or the 750 ml bottles. Or if you want more, like some people do, you would want to go for 1.5 liters. They also have, a package that is very adequate for homes and offices, 19-liter jar bottles. So if you want that for your dispenser, you can get those as well. All you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. And for me, this is the bottom line. For every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It is indeed heartwarming. If you want to make bulk purchases, just call the number 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. It's another quality product from Casapreco Company Limited. And this advert is FDA approved. When we return after the break, you'll be seeing Bernice Lansah, and she has a very important conversation coming up. If you've seen the video in Axim of police officers kneeling down, getting to their knees and begging galamseyers, you will know exactly what time it is. Their rifles, basically, they were being threatened that they would be seized. And the engagement pointing to the fact that there was some relationship between these police officers and the galamseyers. The Ghana Police Service has issued a release on this matter. You want to stay for that conversation. Up next, after the break. Do stay.
Morning to you. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. Earlier on, you heard Benjamin discuss what happened in Parliament on Friday with our guests. It's now time to talk about the fight against illegal mining and the new dimensions it's taking, putting into focus what happened in the Western region. And as you may have heard during the newspaper review, most of the papers capturing it. This is how the Ghanaian Times captures it. Gangsters attack police, seize magazine, mobile phones, 4 grabbed. The publisher says police team under attack over alleged extortion, guns seized, uniform removed, and court remands attackers. You may have seen that video, really disturbing one, I must say. And you can see that the police went there, they were armed, they had their vehicle with them, but the effrontery, the confidence with which these alleged galamseyers attacked or seized the rifle of the police, it just makes you wonder what is giving them that sort of power to do that. and look at the police officer who represents the state in this case. Look at how he pleads. And I wish you could hear, because you could sense that there was a bit of fear or worry in the voices of the police officers, and you can just imagine what was running through their minds. Obviously, putting into perspective the things that have happened in the past few months, even with the Major Mahama incident, where unfortunately he lost his life as a result, also linked to illegal mining and Galamsey issues. And well, the Ghana Police Service has been responding. I'll be introducing my guest shortly, but I just want to set the tone for our conversation. The Ghana Police Service has been responding to this issue. It says that these persons have been picked up, and also the case of alleged extortion is being looked into. Let me just bring you details of that statement briefly. 4 people arrested for attacking police in Western Region, an alleged case of extortion referred to the Police Professional Standards Bureau for investigation. On the 9th of March 2023, the Exim Divisional Police Patrol Team reported an attack on the team by a gang that seized the magazine of a service rifle together with some mobile phones belonging to the police officers. An intelligence operation was immediately launched after the report to get the suspects arrested. On 28 March 2023, after about 3 weeks of the intelligence operation, 4 men, Kojo Sia alias Mosei, Emmanuel Mensah alias Kofia Samwa, Maxwell Kujo, and Ajebu Aruna Disao were arrested for their suspected involvement in the attack. A search conducted at the residence of Kwame Atuasari Ani, the prime suspect who is still on the run, led to the retrieval of 3 pump-action shotguns, also 1 pump-action shotgun, 2 machetes, and 8 BB refilled cartridges were retrieved from the suspect's unregistered Honda CR-V vehicle. Other items retrieved from the suspect include 2 live refilled BB cartridges and 1 unregistered motorbike. On the 1st of April 2023, while the investigations were ongoing to get the remaining suspects arrested, the attention of the police was drawn to a video footage in which the said police personnel, members of the Exim Patrol Team, are shown pleading with members of the gang while the gang is alleging extortion by the police officers. The allegation of extortion against the officers has been referred to the Police Professional Standards Bureau, PPSP, for investigation. All suspects in the reported attack on the patrol team who had been arrested have been put before court and remanded in custody. Efforts are continuing to get the remaining suspects arrested, and this is signed by Grace Ansa Akrofi, Assistant Commissioner of Police Director, Public Affairs. Let me bring you that video, and so you can listen to it and make your own judgment and build your own conclusions based on what you hear.
Polongamala yefu ahe Polongan kadmu fiscal na adleri yobe Polongan kadmu liro fa buro Polongan kadmu shash Polongan kadmu
Oh, Charlie.
Food mother ko yeze. Hey. Ona so. An ko promo.
Musa ko ma. Odo o ma yantra ko. Okiri ma me. Ko fa kibia mo bia fa kiri ma me. Yantra ko. Yanka bu ya. Ya. Come. No fraka aba say ade amu ba amu ya no.
So I'm going to attempt to summarize and translate in the order in which the videos appeared. In the first one, what stood out for me is you can hear the police officer while kneeling saying, "Manyeni ye," which is, I didn't do right by you. Manyeni ye cry. And in the second video, you can also hear the gang or one of the gang members saying, "Sir, yetiauka," which is to imply that there's been some monies that have been paid to this police officer. And then you can hear in the subsequent video, there's a lot of interaction going, and he's saying that you are my person, uye minipa. So clearly it establishes a certain relationship between the police officer and the members. And look, if you're somebody who pays attention to what happens in the sub-region, just look at how the leader of the gang, who is in an army green t-shirt, is dressed with what appears to be charms or something around his neck. I don't know. Consider what the police says it has retrieved from these suspects, the prime one who is still on the run. And imagine what we are breeding, what we are sitting on. And what will happen to us if we allow this to fester? Let me bring in my guest now. She is with the Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group, Elizabeth Va, and she's its executive director. Good morning to you, Elizabeth, and thank you for joining me this morning. You've been doing a lot of work in this sector. On your website, you have updates, you have educational information on what people should know about Galamsey, how many people have died, the amount of vegetation we've lost to Galamsey and all that. How does this make you feel, considering the years that we have put in a lot of effort from organizations like yourself at the national level to try and deal with this? It appears it is changing into something else. Looking at this video, how do you feel?
Good morning, Bernice, and thank you for the opportunity. I am feeling three different emotions at the same time. I am sad, scared, and ashamed. Ashamed as an Nzima that this is happening on our land. And I am sad because to see a Ghanaian officer of the law kneeling before a gangster makes me scared for the future of our country. And this is not just, we are now seeing it, but in the communities themselves. Imagine regular Joe, regular Amma, regular Akuba, regular Aka. Their farms have been overtaken. Their sources of livelihood have been run down. But who can they turn to? Do you expect them to go to the police? Look at how these people are talking to each other. The police in the district has been, they've been fully compromised. And I'm not going to limit it to just the 2 or 3 that are kneeling down begging for their lives. The entire police administration in Axim district has been compromised. How do you expect regular people to feel safe? People bothered about the destruction going on in their communities. They have no one to turn to. From the district administration to the police to everybody. The chiefs, everybody has been compromised. And the regular people are going to be at the mercy of this. The good thing that what Kwame and his people have done has made Ghanaians aware is that very soon it's going to be in our towns. It's going to be in our cities. It's going to be in our villages. It's not just going to stay in the bush. And it's coming for us.
And talking about that reminds me on the attack on that. The name has escaped me. It will come back to me shortly. the mines that were attacked about 2 weeks ago, and we spoke to one of the bosses there who was very disturbed. We have seen this happening over time. And to hear these gangsters threatening the officer and saying, i.e. we will shoot you and kill you. And Elizabeth, bringing into perspective concerns about how close terrorism has come to us. And without sounding like an alarmist, and like I mentioned earlier, if you've seen movies where, like Blood Diamond, all these things, then you begin to understand that this is getting serious. Isn't it surprising, though, that we have put in so much effort from government, organizations, to some of these mining communities themselves? Some chiefs appear to be very forceful in seeing the end to this. Have we lost it? And how did we lose it, despite all these efforts?
Have we lost it? All the efforts, I tell you, other than the CSOs and those like you journalists, some of you like Erastus, putting your lives on the line. Our state apparatus and the municipal and district administrations that are supposed to help, plus the security service, they have never been part of this fight. They have looked at it as a way to enrich themselves. They have looked at it, most of them, have looked at it as a way to make the most they can while they can. So no, we haven't lost it because we haven't tried. We have lost it because those who should really be committed and who have the power to make this stop have been compromised. And that is why my point since I saw this video is we shouldn't limit it to Kwame and his people. I am glad that he escaped and he's speaking up for himself. The police administration is highly, highly compromised, and until we go through to the bottom of it, I am even asking that they be replaced. As at this point, who are you going to talk to? The crime officer? The crime officer is the one being referred to as the one that gave them the gun. And so who are you going to talk to in the district? The DC, MCE? Who? So we have to be committed. This is a fight that can be won. And I am talking to Kwame. I would want to use your medium to talk to Kwame directly. Kwame, the way that you've seen finally that you are being used to destroy your community and the rivers, the same thing, Ghana and our leadership is being used to destroy our communities just so that the real people who enjoy the gold will live large in Dubai and all of those other places. If you watch that mafia movie, Gold Mafia, you would cry for your country, you will cry for Africa. Let's not do this to ourselves. Because the cost of what we are doing in the villages, the cost of what we are doing to our land, the cost of what we've done to River and Cobra, nobody, none of those in Dubai living large are going to bear that cost. We are going to bear it.
Elizabeth, you sound that you still have hope, but you paint a picture of how literally it appears everybody is compromised. And I spoke to the CEO of the Chamber of Mines, Suleiman Akoni, who says that we must bring the soldiers back. But seeing what we are seeing now, and even hearing stories of soldiers extortion, remember the time during the anti-Galamsey task force where soldiers were alleged to have extorted monies. My own colleague Erastus Asari-Donko, brothers reports indicating that some of the gangsters actually had contacts with persons embedded in the team who would alert them and say, look, we are coming here, pack up your things and leave. If all the people responsible appear to be compromised from government, and we had the former Minister for Environment allege that there are people in the Flagstaff House or Jubilee House who are involved in illegal mining one way or the other, where then lies our hope? This hope that your organization is clinging to, this hope that people who live in these mining communities, farmers who are being pushed out of their homes. There was a story about a woman who was being forced out of her home, literally, by illegal miners. Where is the hope that you're clinging on to if the people that are responsible for ensuring that these things are dealt with themselves appear compromised?
Well, we can't give up. But somehow, I am finding some hope in what we have seen today. I am finding hope in it, and I'm expecting the police service, the hierarchy, to sit up and ask itself, given how good they've done in some instances, if they really, really wanted to help us solve this problem, you think they wouldn't? So they should look for the people who have been compromised. And I'm calling on right now, it's like the police are going to investigate themselves. I mean, are we relying on the crime officer and his director in the Axim district office to give them information that will show what's actually going on? They won't. So the police and the Public Service Commission, somebody that really cares with people like what's his name? Those people who have been speaking up about this issue, form a little committee of some sort to really get involved in this probe. Let's isolate the people, the mafia behind this, and let's expose them. Let's get them out of the way. Every town where this is happening, let's get those mafia involved out of the way and reassess. Now, the likes of Kwame coming to the realization that we are being used, I think we can let them all know that yes, they are being used. The entire country is being used, and we are not helping ourselves. So as more and more people come to this realization and they stand up for themselves, their methods have scared us. But I think it is the wake-up call that we need. So now is our time, because when these guys take it off of those policemen who are extorting them and using them into our streets, you and I can stand it. We have nothing else to do than to pick up the pieces and restore our country and our communities.
There's a story on my JoyOnline.com, and this story was on the 1st of April. And the headline is, Prisia Galamsey served notice of a deadly demonstration against mining firm. Remember I told you about what the CEO of the Chamber of Mines has suggested. He says that many of the operations in these mining firms, it's being affected by the activities of Galamsey. So you have the Galamseyers not only taking over people's lands, but they're now moving into properly, legally established firms that are doing what they have to do according to the law and trying and attempting to take over. Let me bring you details of this story from Prisia. There's looming social unrest there. It's also in the western region. A group of small-scale miners have served notice to stage what they term a deadly and relentless demonstration to demand access to mining lands occupied by Future Global Resources Limited. The group, identified as the Central Committee of Community Mining, says the mining company, after its establishment, closed down mining sites which were originally not within their catchment. They want management to free that concession for community mining. Now, you may recall that at the time when it was our fight against Galamsey was full haul, when there was a task force moving around, burning stuff, there was a plan to reintegrate these people or young people who were involved in Galamsey. So we were going to let them plant palm or give them alternative livelihood. And we were trying to also regularize community mining in the area. Now, here's a case where a group of people say that, give us this land or we will embark on a deadly demonstration. I wonder why they term it so. How well do you think we've done with our bid to regularize the activities of small-scale miners while fighting illegal mining and how you feel our activities around that may have contributed or not to where we are today?
That's a loaded question. You know, we haven't approached this whole regularization and all the work that we're supposed to be doing with the genuineness that it deserves. Go to places where they call community mining. Actually, what's the difference between community mining, galamsey, and even the legal mining? There isn't much. The community mine is owned by a Chinese or some politician, and then the guys, the youth of the town, most of them party apparatchiks, are conscripted or are employed to work in it. They are using the same equipment and accoutrements and harsh chemicals that the illegal miner is using. Really, what's the difference? I have a community that is right now, the youth themselves have come together and said, we are not letting you come and do your community mining. We only have one good stream that we rely on, and we are not going to let you do that. They are in court with their chief and the regional minister not to let community mining happen in the area because it's not community, number one, and it doesn't help them. We have a lot of youth that think that the galamsey they are doing, because they earn some few cities, it's everything. At the end of the day, they are dying. They are dying with kidney disease and all of that. Nobody seems to be making the connection and really letting them know that they are not helping themselves. They are destroying the communities. And then I have been also a very, very vocal community rights advocate. Even where we have so-called legal proper mining, look at Obuasi, look at Prestia, look at Takwa. I mean, really, are we serious? What exactly are these communities gaining from these mines? So we are going to continue to have those skirmishes between the community people and the mines just because of because of all the inequality and injustice that goes on between the communities that own the resource and the people that come to exploit it.
Elizabeth, so are you, sorry to interject, but does it appear to you then that this may be streaming from different angles, while there are those who are demanding to take over legal concessions of legal firms who are galamseyers? There are members of the community who also feel we've not had enough from you, and so they may be justified in a way in their demands for this. Is that what I'm getting from your submission?
So there is justification for communities and the right for them to be able to enjoy a good share of the resources on their land. That should not be taken away. And we have to find a way as a country to see how we get some equity. We do some equitable distribution of the resources, making sure that the communities that contribute the most, the communities that bear the risk of anything that comes up when these things, with the exploitation of these resources, do see tangible benefit from the use of those resources. And then also those who are now using this galamsey and looking for gold as their way of terrorizing people. You go deep behind it, and they are all being supported by the very echelon, the very people in our communities and our societies that should be speaking up for the communities. The people behind it, emboldening these people, are the same people we expect to enforce the law and make sure there's law and order. So it's a big mess there that we need to look at. But the issue of ensuring equitable distribution of the resources, it is key if we want to be credible. If we want to say to these people, no, you don't need to do this. You get your share of whatever your land has, and then do some other things that can benefit you. They will understand. But right now, some of them are genuinely fighting for what is theirs, and some of them are taking advantage of it with the leadership behind them to really, really make life miserable for everybody. We need to sit down properly, look at how we tackle this, and do the right thing. Because Look, we are all being made fools of by the people who are in the gold mafia enjoying the booty in Dubai. We are all pawns in everybody else's game, and our country is going to be the worst for it.
Elizabeth, the example you cited of that community that is insisting and telling its leaders that we won't allow even community mining here, takes me to an angle of your fight. And on your website, you have a petition people can sign. You have a call for people to join this fight against illegal mining. So run us through how people can be a part of it, because clearly it appears that those mandated to help us in this fight are failing us by the minute. And based on the example that you cited, if ordinary people do not rise up, we will have trouble on our hands in a few years to come. So how do we join that fight, and how do we sign your petition?
The petition is online, so everybody is invited to sign. How to join? You go to our website and you can get in touch with me. We have a form, very simple. You fill it and you are part of it. Right now, as I speak, we have about 200 people on our platform, and in the various communities, we are getting some kind of help from what's the name? Erocha and Waxy and those things to help build capacity to make this, the fight is in the communities. Even me sitting here, I am not there. And I get calls every single time, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Madam, this is what's happening here. That's how that community reached us. A youth from the place had been fighting and fighting to no avail. When they heard that now there was going to be community mining, the president had his poster on big poster at their place. They got scared because 80% of their land is taken over by some bauxite company. And then the remaining 20% with a very beautiful stream that's all that the community is called Atronsu. That's all that they revolve around. The chief and the regional minister and whoever came up with community mining, and they were like, no, we can't do that. So when they reached out, we helped them get the voice. We helped connect them to organizations like eco-conscious citizens and stuff like that are helping. We are all helping them fight, because we can talk all we want, but the fight is right on the ground. And let me use your medium as well to let every youth in every community know that whatever you think you're getting from destroying your communities, it's not much compared to the disease and the debilitation that is going to face you. So be like the likes of Japheth and his team at Atronsu. Stand up for once. Stand up for your communities. There is life beyond Galamsey. Take advantage of it. And we are also trying to help these people with some kind of alternative livelihood. We have a very, very dedicated a father called Father Joseph Blake. He's one of the communities. He's been able to get them to say, in this our Jema community, no Galamsey, no mining. And they are thriving. We now want to help them to do like alternative thing like fish farming and those things. Let us all come together and help the communities fight for themselves. And all those are who we see to be complicit, and who Kwame Eni and his team have made us see are complicit. Let's clear them off. Let's retool ourselves. If you want to join us, like I've said, go to the website gheag.org, get in touch with us, and we are trying to mobilize as many people in the communities as possible to stand up, because we are the change that we seek.
Right.
If we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us.
And let me just reiterate what the website is, gheag.org, Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group.org. And I'm currently on your site, and I must say that you're doing a lot of work, which is really commendable. And so on that page, you even have ways on which you can educate other persons about destruction of the environment. The bigger aim is to protect the environment. So you have things like how you can plant a tree, recycling plastics, not littering, conserving electricity. And they also have articles and reports. The latest one was released in January 29, 2023, which is, does Ghana have sustainable small-scale or community mines? And that's what we are discussing. I just saw it, and it's really exciting for me, Elizabeth. So before I let you go, Elizabeth, this is something I've been saying since we started our fight against Galamsey. And I would like for you to spell out in 2 or 3 points what immediate measures you think we must take to ensure that the next time you and I have this conversation, it will be conversation about making strides and not retrogressive things like what we've seen in that video today.
What can we do? Our chiefs, I keep saying that our chiefs are more powerful than the mayors of New York and those major cities, because you are seen by your people as the link between your ancestors and the current generation and the future. You have been vested the authority over the community, the land that you are chiefs of. Forget what the politicians and everyone else says. Your power has not been taken from you. So exercise it in your communities. Because when everyone is gone, you are going to be answerable to the youngest baby that is born on your land today, the chiefs. And then the community, the youth, stand up for yourselves. I know Kwame did it because he saw that he was being used. Everyone else in those communities, those in the trenches, those on the Ankobra digging it up as I speak right now, it's your future you are mortgaging. Think again. The few cities you get there are not going to help you in any way at all. In a few years, you're going to be in the hospital on dialysis. So think and think again and save yourself. Now finally, to our country, to the police, to the government, to those in charge of running this country, let this episode be the wake-up call. Axim District Police has to be replaced right now before, as we dig deeper into exactly what is going on. Let's get that template clean and let's restore that template in every other community where this is going on. The complicity, so long as there's complicity between the administration, the police service, and the Galamseyers, we will not be going anywhere. But it won't end there. It's not going to, if we don't do anything right now, it's not going to end in that forest. It's going to come to the towns. It's going to come to your administration, and you may not be able to curtail it.
Elizabeth, I'm so grateful you could join us this morning. Elizabeth Vice, Executive Director, Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group. You can check them out, check out their websites, the works they're doing, read around why it's important for us to join this fight. And she talking about the health impact of illegal mining reminds me of a documentary or a feature we aired about a doctor who is so concerned about pollution and how it's affecting even babies who are passing kidney stones. This is a fight that we must all be interested in. And hopefully something meaningful will come out of this, and we'll be able to appreciate and understand the importance of this to our environment. It's important that we don't lose hope in this fight against illegal mining. And like Elizabeth suggested, it comes down to you and I, the very people who will be affected. And don't think you sit in the major cities and so you're not affected. All our water bodies are connected one way or the other. And you've heard what the Ghana Water Company Limited has been saying about even turbidity and how it's affecting its ability to produce water. Recently, a senior officer at the CSIR has also raised concerns and said we may start importing water. This is a crisis, people, and we must all be interested. Imagine if all of us said we will rise up. We don't care if the police is losing the fight. We don't care if government is losing the fight. We as the people will stand up. Imagine the positive impact we would be making. And so get onto the Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group's website. You can sign the petition. You can become a member and see how we all help in making our country a safer place for all of us and the future generations. Well, this is the AM show. It's now time for us to bring you our drive safe tip. Do stay for that.
Hello, we're back at Top Tech Transport and Logistics, and you know exactly why. It is time for Drive Safe. Yeah, we all need to drive safe and stay alive. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and it's a pleasure coming your way once more. But right before we get into today's topic, so you think you know. Well, here's another road sign, and we'd like to find out, do you know what this stands for? Okay, so at the tail end of today's segment, we'll find out what exactly this road sign means. But once more, let me say thank you for joining us, CEO of Top Tech Transport and Logistics, Cecil Gabra. I felt like announcing your name like a ring announcer. Cecil Gabra! It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Very soon I'll stop using the Cecil and I'll prefer Ebo Gabra.
Ebo Gabra.
Yes.
Why Ebo though?
Tuesday born.
Oh, yes.
That's all.
Yes, yes.
Tuesday, fancy boy.
Yeah, the fancy day inside.
Yes, yes.
Let's get into today's topic. We'll be talking about the causes, factors and causes of road traffic accidents with a specific focus on buses, especially around this time. But I just want us to take a minute to wrap up on car tires, and I want us to look at, so all these things you said about the car tires, how do we properly service and maintain the car tires so they can last the 6-year span properly? What do we do?
Okay, so tire rotation is very important. If you don't rotate your tires and then you are using, let's say, 4x4, you realize that power is being driven from the rear. So that tires will definitely be bad tires if you don't change them within a period of 1 year. You will realize that they are getting older, and then the front will be newer. The tread limit on the back tires will almost get to the 1.6 millimeter mark, but the front will be higher. So rotate your tires after every 3 months.
After every 3 months?
Yes, after every 3 months, or after every 5,000 kilometers, whichever comes first.
Right.
Okay, if it's 3 months. But somebody will ask, so, I mean, if I'm not using my vehicle, what happens? Yes, if you are ready to use your vehicle, you need to rotate your tires. And remember, if you are traveling for, let's say, more than 3 months, you need to elevate your tires so your tires will not touch the ground.
Right.
Tires must not be at one place forever.
So you're going out of town for a while, you must do all of that.
Yes, at
elevate
least
the car.
Yes, if it's more than 3 months, your tires must be up. It shouldn't be touching the ground.
Okay.
And that saves, it's part of maintenance of the tire. Check for damages, check for cracks. If you see any of them on the sidewalls, then you should know you need to buy 2 new tires. And never fix 2 new tires at the back. Always fix it at the front. And then after a period of 3 months, you bring them at the rear. There are lots more to learn on car tires.
I guess we would never finish that chapter. Maybe some other time we'll get back to that subject. But let's focus on today's core lesson, which has to do with the causes, factors and causes of road traffic accidents, especially around this time. What are some of the things we ought to be looking out for, especially considering our buses, the big ones that convey a lot of people to and fro?
Thank you so much, Ben. We always hear bus accidents, and honestly, I am not going to discriminate, but I think for those private companies, they need what we call a transport audit. And when I'm talking about a transport audit, we need the team full of engineers to enter the premises of A, B, and C bus terminal, and then inspect the buses and find out whether really they are roadworthy to travel. forget about the DVLA roadworthiness test, but I'm
Why
talking
should we forget about them?
Yes, but that is just one day. Somebody can do a dress rehearsal, fix new ties, go for the DVLA test, and come back and fix old ties. Okay, sometimes some of them go and borrow ties. They borrow others so that they can pass the what I call the DVLA test. But again, I am saying we need to do a transport audit. Check whether the buses have got the right engine. I'm talking about the engine capacity. Sometimes the engine capacity of those buses are even bigger than the bus itself. Yes, it happens a lot. It happens because of those buses that are bought from outside, those second-hand buses. They have worked on them. Is that the right engine? Is the engine bigger than the vehicle? You need to check it. You need to check the seats, whether they conform with the specifications of the bus. Okay, some seats are angle ironed. When I say angle iron, these are thick iron, steel iron, which are heavier, and it affects the weight of the vehicle. Right, what about the ties? I remember on your station some time ago, I told somebody, if you are traveling around this time, go around the ties and check whether you don't have any worn out ties. Okay, ties must be checked. Do they conform to the dates? And then don't forget, we've spoken about speed limiters. They really need to fix the speed limiters. And these are some of the issues that we are having on the highways that are causing a lot more of accidents. We don't do all these checks, especially for those private companies that run buses. But for STC, which is for the government, I would say a big plus to them. I'll say it's safer, and we need to patronize their services than going to such those killer buses.
There's something, as you spoke, that came to mind. You know, nowadays, a lot of the vehicles that we are bringing into town, we switch the what do you call it, the steering. You get it. All of that is in there, and sometimes the electrical work is not done properly. What is your quick take on that? I don't know, but it just came to mind as you spoke about all of these things in our buses. Some of these new vehicles coming through, we are switching the steering from right to left, left to right, and all of that, and it's creating all sorts of problems. Of course, here we have left-hand steering.
Well, thank you, Ben. But then I will say we should go first to the LI. What's the LI saying? The LI says we must not allow such vehicles in. Okay? But what do we see? They come in, and I think they pass through the system, and they go to workshop, and I ask myself, why? Because a lot of things on that vehicle has been calibrated by the manufacturer. And therefore, for instance, if you pick up what we call the master cylinder, that's the brake system, it is on the right, and it will be shifted to the left. That whole system is calibrated. And do we have the equipment to calibrate it here? If you talk about the brain box, that's the motherboard of the whole vehicle, that also has got tiny, tiny wires that is fixed to the brain of this vehicle. So that will also be moved from the right to the left. The wires will be moved and then will be tampered with it. We don't have the equipment. Although we have the OBD equipment, that's the onboard diagnosis equipment to check and so on. You will not believe it that those mechanics even cut off the wires and then remove the lights from the dashboard. So when you start it, you will not have the truth of what has happened. So I feel the government should be very, very specific on such vehicles that come. And it all started when we had what we call the anti-day buses, that is the double-decker buses, which were right-hand and then were converted to the left-hand in the country. And I'll say that is where I think the law was amended. And I mean, you see Toyota vehicles, Yaris, there's another one. It's being converted, and then instead of the trafficator being on the left, it's on the right. Okay, it's not the best. I wouldn't ask people to go in for such vehicles because the calibration may fail. There you go, they have removed bulbs that will communicate with you as a user to the vehicle and so on. But if those bulbs have removed, how do we communicate? So I think we should look at the laws again and then stop them from being imported into this country.
Well, there you have it from the mouth of the expert. These are the things we should know. Today we've learned about some of the causes, factors and causes of road traffic accidents, especially taking a look at our buses. We've also we started by looking at proper maintenance of our car tires. And we just took a look at this whole bit about switching steerings and entire systems in cars as we keep bringing them into our country. We keep learning and we keep getting to know more about how to protect our own lives and protect the lives of those out there. But right before we wrap, you think you know? Well, this is the answer for today's quiz question. And there you have it. It's a wrap for another segment of Drive Safe with me, Benjamin Akakpo. It's always a pleasure. Hold on, and the next time we'll bring you the next part of the segment.
Hello there, welcome to the AM show. Thank you for staying on. Benjamin.
Nearly caught with the finger in the cookie jar. But I wasn't.
No, you weren't.
I was just about to get into something before we came back.
Mischievous. I would have been
but I'll tell you
if they saw it.
What is mischievous, mind-boggling. The conversation you did and the police officers in that video. I mean, I've never seen anything like this before. Never.
Benjamin,
when I saw the video, I was thinking, wait. Is that really happening? Is that what I'm seeing?
Looks like a scene from a movie. And I'm saying, like, I pray that none of you thinks I'm sounding like an alarmist. But you should be worried. Look, we sit here every morning, and I can tie it into so many conversations we've had, Benjamin. Talk about the threats of terrorism. Talk about concerns. Look at what happened at Gold Star Wassa
Resources.
Mining. Yeah. Look, and it's just happening. And the evidence is there. And you know, when we spoke about what happened in Turkey, which unfortunately claimed the life of our own Christian Achu, we are told there were tremors, there were warnings, it was coming. And it came. Unfortunately, look at the numbers. I'm sure we've lost count, right? Our lenses.
So here too, it's coming, and we're pretending
it's coming.
It's not even there.
The signs are there. It's coming.
The writing is on the wall. I think we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Morning. My name is Mohammed, and I'm calling from Tamale.
Right.
All right, Mohammed, please speak up a bit. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. My name is Mohammed, and I'm calling from Tamale.
Right.
I just watched the video that you showed this morning, and it was very appalling. And I think that this is a panacea to having a militia in Ghana. If you can have a security agency doing this way, it's unfortunate. So going forward, I will hope that, you know, the management of our country will really sit up, because these things will give rise to all the terrorist organization and all that stuff. People like the gang leader that I saw, you know, can be a motivation to so many other youth who will want to, you know, do similar things. So I think it's about time that we wake up as a nation and fight this. So thank you very much, Joy.
Thank you so much.
We are really grateful and thankful.
Thank you for calling us as well. And Benjamin, the other thing is, what went through my mind as I read the police statement on the arms and ammunition that were retrieved, I began to ask myself, why is it so important for a miner to have these? Okay, Now he has it.
For a minor?
Yes.
Okay.
An alleged illegal minor, right? Because that's in their custody. Now he has it. What is he using it for? What is he likely...
Well, we've seen them. We've seen some of those who have been accosted and how they fired. Sometimes they've engaged the officials of our state security services in gun battles. We've seen Chinese
These are pump
people
action
take out
shotguns.
guns and threaten.
So you're asking then again, what could all these arms be used for if we successfully push these people out of the system even? So
and
they
that
have
brings up
arms.
the conversation MFA had yesterday on the probe.
We have another caller from Tamale. Hello, Abdul. Let's hear you, please.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, my name is Abdul Rahman Samari, calling you from Tamale, precisely. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
The point is that the video you've shown us on your screen is very, very unfortunate. And I say that because we are where we are today because of the rate of politics that we have found ourselves in. Developing a country or fighting a canker should be seen as collective responsibility. The journalists, the government, the media, the clergy, the ulama, and all staff. Nobody dare say that they can't fish out the people involved. And they are not at the Galamsey site by accident. When Major Mahama issues happen, what didn't we say in this country? Somebody out there should tell us the outcome. Why wouldn't they have the guts to get to that extent? It is a shame to the police. It is another shame to the authority who lives within that jurisdiction. It is time we stop the MPP and the NDC politics and face the reality.
Okay.
Right. Sorry we have to rush you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
The president has done his best by providing all the necessary laws to make sure that we fought the Galamsey. Why are we still there? We are not progressing.
Thank you, Abdul, for sharing your thoughts with us. And let me just direct all of you to my JoyOnline.com. There is a piece by Evan Spencer. It's the wasted 31 years of NDC and NPP, lessons from Kagame's RPF in Rwanda. He was part of that program where they had what is a semblance of our Congress and our conferences here. And he writes about the kind of discussions, the kind of policy discussions that were being had and how it was to move the country forward. So just get onto my JoyOnline.com and read that in connection with our politics and why we are where we are today. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we have a conversation with the Infantipim School. Do stay. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. This morning, I'm pleased to be hosting Captain Paul Forjo, MOBA 73, and Frederick Yawankoma, MOBA 03. I mean, you don't need to be told who is who. I mean, just by the year, you can tell. And Captain Forjo is a Busia Pingin of MOBA. So what MOBA does is they don't have precedents, you know, one pedamartin, you know. When you're fanciful, we're a clan. You know, they are on fancy land. When I say when you're fanciful, that's what I mean. You're welcome to my studios this morning. You're here because of your 147th anniversary. Tell us more about it.
Well, Infantipim is the oldest secondary school in Ghana. Set up on a Monday, just like today, 3rd April 1876. The founding fathers of the school set up Infantipim for it to be the soul of the nation. They were looking at developing Ghanaians who would end up becoming the leaders of Ghana. They could foresee that we would have to end up ruling ourselves, and they needed to educate people to do so. Some people sometimes make the mistake of thinking that because the name is Infantipim, it's for fancies. It isn't. No. It was never meant to be so. And literally, it would then mean that it's for 1,000 fancies. No. It was supposed to educate the heart, the head, the hands of the people, to the extent that our earlier symbols had so many tribes, other tribes in it. But what we've ended up doing is we've always believed that we're the pace setters because we're the oldest. Actually, the mission of our alumni association is to always make sure that we are the best second cycle alumni association in Ghana, so that other alumni associations can pick up from us, can learn. Because when they do, at the end of the day, the major beneficiary is Ghana, because we all have to contribute back. We have to learn to give back to our alumni.
Right. So I'm guessing that 73 and all threes because you guys share something similar. You want to tell us why you're a part of this celebration and what the activities will be?
All right. Thank you very much. So this year, the sponsoring year groups comprising 73, 83, 2003, and then 2013 have come together to execute a project. I think for the past 4 years, there's been that call to have, a sports excellence facility in Infantipim. It started with a basketball court, which is neatly constructed and commissioned. We have an IAF certified, AstroTurf, which is one of a kind in Cape Coast, and is on Infantipim soil. And this year, the 5, groups, 73, 83, 2003, and 2013 have come together.
93.
Sorry. 73, 83, 93, 2003, and 2013. That's right. And our mandate is to construct an 8-lane artificial synthetic oval track for our athletes. Yes. Great. Yes. And it will surprise you to know that all the athletic tracks that we have in Ghana are not approved. None. This will be the only approved one. And it's right on Infantipim.
Yeah, Legon is doing something.
Legon is doing,
and I think that's for the All-African Games.
Exactly. So basically, that is our mandate. And it will form part of our speech day, which will happen in November this year.
All right. So, I mean, I'm sure you're on Facebook. You're very active on Facebook. You can get, and if you're a mobile and you're not, please, your Bushaping is calling for your head this morning. You have to find him and get yourself, back in the good books and help support this cause. And unfortunately, that's all time will allow us. I wish we could talk more. But hopefully we'll be updating our audience more on what your plans and activities are. This morning, I've been speaking to Captain Paul Fojo. He is MOBA 73 and Ebusia Pingin, and Frederick Yawankoma, MOBA 03. That'll be all for the AM show with me, Bernice alongside Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you so much for making time to be with us. Up next is News Desk. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thank you too.